Well, wubba lubba dub dub. Hello, everybody. It's Wednesday night. As you can see, I am Rick tonight. By the way, I'm not alone. Apart from Tyler making his flipping pizza, we have another guest tonight. Enter Mr. Kevin.
Evening, everyone. How are we all doing tonight? All right. Good to see you.
You know what the title is tonight, didn't you? How to tell the TV licensing to get lost. No, that's not it, is it?
No, not quite. No.
No. What is the title tonight?
The title tonight is "What was your first car?"
That's what it is.
That's the one.
What was your last car?
First car. Well, for some of you watching, maybe you've still got your first car. Maybe that is your last car as well. So be interesting to find out, interesting to hear. So, of course, let's start with you, Alan. What was your first car?
Well, before we get to any of the comments, I'll run through my first car because it was a little bit special. I've said this before. The first car I ever got, I paid £25 for it. By the way, I had no driving license, no insurance, no tax, no goddamn nothing, and I used to drive it around. And it was a Vauxhall Viva 1967 HB, and it had a little 1100 engine in it, and it was a piece of crap. And the tyres used to blow out because they had inner tubes in the tyres, and they used to blow out when you went around the corner. And this is a car we done like a 180 going around a country bend when we had about 4 people in the car, and we nearly put it in a ditch. And we're only doing about 20 miles an hour. But that was my first car. That was that. In actual fact, that was the car me and my mate drove downtown, and we smelled petrol leak. And I didn't know nothing about cars, so I lifted the bonnet looking for the petrol leak with a candle. And of course, the whole engine went up in flipping flames, and this woman come out of her door with a bucket of water and poured the water all over the engine. We pissed off into town. When we come back later, we jumped in it and drove off again. Got back home all right. that was my first car. Anyway, you can.
Brilliant. How do you follow that? Looking for a fuel leak with a candle. I don't know how we can top that tonight.
Not a lot has changed. I'm still a dumbass.
So before we get to your comments and before we see who's with us this evening, I've just got a couple of people I want to give a shout out to, because we were talking about first cars. The thumbnail, by the way, the thumbnail picture, that was me 25 years ago with my first car, which was, as you can probably tell, a Bahama blue Ford Escort Eclipse 1.3 special edition, which I absolutely loved. Owned that for 4 years. So that was my first car. But I want to give a shout out to George Jackson. Evening, George. Posted on social media that I'd be doing this evening, and a few people have come back with what their first car was. So George, he had a Mark I Ford Cortina, registration VDO912. So that was a very early one. That would be a 1962, that one. Danny Bennett. Hi, Danny. How you doing? Danny always gives me lots of detail, which I love. Mark II Ford Escort Popular, 1.1 two-door in Olympic blue. And that was KGV871P. And last but not least, Claire Motley. How you doing, Claire? She had a Y-plate Austin Metro in blue. So let's just think about that for a minute, Alan. Austin Metro.
Yes, I remember Metros well.
Alan had a lot of experience working on Metros.
Yeah, the amount of engines and gearboxes I had a part on them bloody cars.
They were cool. They were sort of 1980, wasn't it? The Metro was launched. So we're going back a fair distance. So I guess we'll be able to tell rough sort of age of all of you out there, depending on what your first car was. So that'll be interesting to see the variety as well, won't it?
Well, it's showing my bloody age, isn't it? 1967.
67 Viva. We're going to have difficulty topping that tonight, I think, aren't we? Right. So should we start with some comments then, Alan?
Yep. All you do is just
trackpad.
Click on the person there.
That one?
Yeah, I've worked.
Because we need to show them on the screen, don't we?
That's it. There we go.
There we go. So who we got here? Scott. Alan, please do a Ford Orion or Mark 1 Mondeo. Does he mean on the live stream? Is that what you mean, Scott? Or you missed the Ford Orion one? We did that on the 1st of February.
I don't know, but he's got another. Scott has got another comment further down.
Has he?
So we might learn a bit more information as we go down.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, Scott, if I'm talking nonsense. I usually am, but who have we got next? Hey, Vivian Hughes.
Hello, Viv.
Hi, Viv. How you doing? You all
How's
right?
it hanging?
Now, Vivian's put, my first car was a 1972 Mark III Cortina 1.6L in Daytona yellow. What a cool colour that was. That was a good one, wasn't it?
You remember a live stream we done a while back? That Cortina is the front.
Yes, I remember seeing that. Yes. And we did see, I think when Vivian was with us at the TC Harrison meet last year, there was a Daytona yellow Mark III estate in attendance there, wasn't there? That was pretty cool.
Yeah, there probably was. I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was parked down the side. I got it in 1976, black vinyl upholstery, already 100,000 on the clock when I got it. Quite rusty as well. Yeah, the old Dagenham dustbins, as they called them. Didn't last long, but I really loved it. Yeah. Brilliant. Thanks, Vivian. Thanks for that. So, Scott, right. Alan, please do a Mark 1 Mondeo or Mark IV Escort or something similar project with your style of YouTube. It would be well funny and interesting. So, Scott wants you to actually restore one by the sounds of it. Or
Scott, ain't going to happen.
I'm sure.
I haven't got enough years left to do anything like that. Well, it's not so much that. It's having the space and the time and the will to do it. And I really haven't got that at the minute. I've got too many other things going on. If I had the right opportunities and the right everything else, I would probably have a nice car in a big garage of my own, and I'd be able to do these kind of things. But believe me, by the time I finish work, and I can't do a project at work because they're too busy with the taxes and everything else there. And I can't do it here, so I just haven't got the space. So, but the best I will do, if I was to get a Mark 1 Mondeo, which I would like to get, or an Escort or something like that, an old one, Mark III, even a Mark, especially a Mark 1 or a Mark II, I would definitely get them on the ramp and sort of like go around them and make a video of it.
So that's the next best thing, yeah.
Yeah, but
Has anybody out there got one that they could bring along for Alan to film? That would be the next question, wouldn't it?
Well, these things sometimes turn up.
Yeah. Right, remind me how to use this trackpad, Alan, for the next comment.
You just put your finger on the trackpad to move the cursor around, and then just move it down to the next one, and then just tap it like that.
Tapping. Jules 2650. Evening, Alan. Classic Mini. Was broke down more than on the road. Ha ha.
Classic Mini was broke down.
So that was Jules' first car.
Well, they did have their issues to start the early ones, didn't they? They got better over the years, but obviously the original Minis were never the most reliable of cars.
They were, what were they? The early ones you had an 850, didn't you? Mini 850 or 1000 cc, and then the later ones they had the 1.3i engine in, didn't they? The last ones.
Oh, they got fuel injection in the later ones.
Yeah.
But we were talking about it the other day, funnily enough, about Minis, where the radiators were to the side of the car.
Yeah.
And I think they're on the passenger side.
Yes.
And they used to put a bag, like a plastic bag, over the distributor cap, because the rain and dampness coming through the grille when it struck the distributor cap.
Really?
It caused it to arc out and all kinds of misfire problems.
So little design flaw there then, the old transverse engine. Okay.
That's it. Two fingers to scroll up and down, and one finger to move the cursor.
Hara. Hello, Alan. How are you?
Hello.
Do you know which car is also called as the Mark III Citroen C5 second generation from 2007 to 2018? The first generation facelift, they called it the Mark II, the same thing for a Mondeo. Not sure.
I know what a Citroen C5 looks like. It's fair old size car.
Citroen's pretty cool, really. They're always a little bit... Citroen's always a little bit out there, aren't they? They always do something a little bit different with them, which is what makes them quite cool, really. But no, I don't know the answer to that. Alan, do you?
No, I'm not really a Citroen person.
Right, who have we got? Finn Hogan.
Finn's in Ireland.
Good evening, Alan and Kevin. Great to see you both on the live stream again. Thank you, Finn. Thanks for joining us. My first car was a Mini City 1980 orange. Could never afford the fast Fords at the time. Yeah, Mini City.
City was another name for poverty model, isn't that right? That's right, Finn. It's poverty model.
They had lots of names for all these minis, didn't they? You had the City, you had the Mayfair, 1980. So I'm just trying to think. Yeah, you'd have had the Mayfair and the City. Yeah, pretty cool. Very good. So that's a couple of minis. I thought a few people may have had minis as their first car. Vin says Triumph Dolomite 1300. Triumph Dolomite.
They were actually nice. I mean, they went wrong a lot, but they were nice cars. All the wood dash.
Yeah,
they were nice. I used to like them.
Dolomites were cool. They were. I mean, the real one that everyone wanted, of course, was the Sprint, wasn't it? The Dolly Sprint with the twin headlamps. That was quite a car, that was. But Triumph Dolomite 1300, not bad at all. Brendan Gunn, hi Brendan. Rover 414 bubble shape with the 1.4 K series lump. And funny enough, no head gasket issues whatsoever. Yeah, that's notorious for having head gasket problems, isn't it? The old K series.
You know, them Rovers, I'd say that was a bit like newer, but it's kind of, even going back to the Rover 414, they're quite old. They're very old cars now.
They are now. But I think Rovers, I'm a big fan of the old, British Leyland, Austin Rover, Rover Group, MG Rover, all the different names they went through. But I do like the classic Rovers, and they are quite cheap now. If you compare them on eBay to other makes, you can pick up a Rover quite cheaply, really, if you want a sort of entry-level classic. So it's just finding one that's decent. That's the real challenge, I think, isn't it? Mr. Dave H. Evening, Alan. My first motor was a 3-litre Mark 1 Granada gear.
Flipping heck, mate.
3 litre.
You had the flipping envy of many people there.
Not much extras those days. Velour seats and a sunroof. That was it.
It doesn't matter.
No, 3 litre. Got the Essex V6 in that. What a car.
Was that a 4-door or a 2-door? Because if it was a 2-door coupe, that would have been the dog's twitch of that. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we saw one of those, didn't we? They are pretty cool looking car. Pretty big.
Yeah. Even back, even all them years ago. What was it? 1970s.
Yeah, 72 they came out. Yeah.
I'm telling you, if you had a Granada, a 2-door coupe, people would look at you.
But yeah, 3-litre gear. Wow, how did you afford the insurance on that for your first car? 3 litre. They must have stung you for that.
They weren't even cheap to buy.
No. Thanks for that. Misanthropist Ford Escort 1300 gear. Old X-Reg, yeah, 1981.
Ford Escort 1300.
So that would, on the X-Reg, that would have been the one with the little side stripes, wouldn't it? And the fancy wheel embellishers. And now somebody might be able to answer this evening. Escort Mark III, which we're talking about here, did the gear have a rear wash wipe as standard, or was it an optional extra? Because I know it was an optional extra as far up the range as GL, but I can't remember on the gear whether you actually got a rear wash wipe or whether that was still an extra. Because it's quite surprising, you go back to the 80s, how many things were actually extras that we take for granted today.
Well, lots of things, mud flaps would have been an extra, to buy them, or mats, obviously, even though nowadays, I'm sure you're giving them.
Yeah. Radios as well, weren't they? Radios, often radio was extra, or you bought an aftermarket one and fitted it yourself.
I think quite often, if you wanted pinstripes down the side of your car, that would cost you extra.
Yeah, it would. Okay. Thanks for that. Nigel Perry. Oh, we've got another Viva, Alan, a 1975 Viva with rust. So that would have been HC, wouldn't it, if it was a 75? Is that right? Yours was a HB 67, the Coke bottle shape, as they called it.
One. Yeah.
Coke bottle shape, yeah.
You see, I always wanted the Forenza.
Oh
But-
yeah, Forenza was very cool, wasn't it?
But nothing changes. You can never afford them. They were always too expensive back then, and I had no money, so I was shit out of luck.
Anyway, thanks for that, Nigel. That's cool. Jules, good evening, Alan. Question, and it's a Mondeo question.
I'm listening.
I have a Mark IV Mondeo. The window washers are really weak. Output of water. I changed pump for a new one, cleaned the lines with compressed air, and it's still the same. Any ideas?
Well, the one thing you haven't put there in the description, you know, when you take the pump out of the bottle, there's normally like a little rubber grommet that pushes in the bottle, and it's got pinholes in it like a thimble, and that gets blocked up with crap. So basically, you can have a full washer bottle. You can literally pull the motor out, and no water will come out in some cases. You have to pull that rubber thimble out and make sure that's totally clean to start with, because they get blocked. And if it's not the front rubber thimble, then all I can say is you've got a blockage elsewhere, or you've got a crimped pipe somewhere. But I'd say more than often, it's probably crap in that bottle that's blocked up the filter.
So best take the bottle off and
Or just pull the motor out of the bottle, and the rubber thing that the motor pulls out of.
yeah.
That's the actual inside there. Is like a little thimble thing with holes in it, and it gets blocked up.
Okay.
So just pull the rubber out and clean it.
Right. Good luck with that then, Jules. Let us know how you get on. Hopefully that'll fix it. Sam McLaughlin. Hi, Alan. Don't forget the JD.
I've just drank it.
Yeah, he's had one already.
Not hanging around.
I've had a Hyundai Atos as my first car. Well, that's something different. Hyundai. So
I don't even know what a Hyundai Atos
I
is.
think it's is it the small one? I've got a feeling it might be the little one. And on that note, actually, we're sort of, obviously we're in the UK, we're talking UK cars, but I'd love to hear from some of our viewers around the world what type of cars you had as your first car. So I'm sure there'll be a few things that we probably haven't heard of. So at the moment, yeah, Hyundai Atos, I think it's quite a small little hatchback, but correct me if I'm wrong, Sam. You have to give us a bit more info on that one. Thank you. CNC setter, evening both. Passed test in 74. Oh, and bought a Vauxhall Viva HA for £120 on HP. Then swapped for a Ford Anglia 105E. Oh, now we're talking. Welcome back, Kevin, the font of knowledge. Martin, thank you.
Yeah, that Ford Anglia would have been a nice one to have.
Yeah, definitely. But so that's two of you have had a Viva HA then.
Yeah,
Oh no, HA. Sorry,
Yeah,
HA was the first one, wasn't it? Alan's was a HP.
Yeah, the difference is my Viva cost me £25.
Yeah. So I'm willing to bet, Martin, that yours was probably in a bit better condition
It probably definitely
at
was.
that price difference. Nico says a Mini. Yeah, I thought we'd have a few Minis this evening. And talking about Minis, I've got to mention it. Yesterday, whose birthday was it, Alan? Do you know whose birthday it was yesterday? Mini is the clue. A famous, well-known actor. Oh, that's Hope, by the way. Got another guest this evening. She's gone camera shy. There she
we
is.
go.
Hey,
Say hello.
that's Hope.
Hello.
Hope, say hello. So, before the distraction,
No, I actually don't know.
yesterday, 90th birthday of Sir Michael Caine.
Oh, really?
Yes, my favourite Michael Caine film, probably not surprisingly, was The Italian Job. You're only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. That's my bad impression. Sorry, Michael, if you're watching. But yeah, that was got to be the best film with minis in, hasn't it? What a classic film that is.
Well, they were everywhere. Minis were literally everywhere.
Yes. Well, they were. They said about minis. Why they love minis for The Italian Job? They were classless. That's the phrase they used. No matter what sort of background you were from, everyone loved a Mini, didn't they? So, yeah, that was the car of the 60s, really, wasn't it? Mondeo Mark III 1.8 Trend. Wow. So I'm guessing, where are you speaking to us from? A Trend spec Mark III. That's got to be somewhere in Europe, I
I've
believe.
not heard of a Trend.
The Trend derivative, Ford UK didn't use that until a bit later on, kind of like 2008-ish, I think. So on a Mark III Mondeo, yeah, that's got to be sort of basic spec, I guess. Not 100% sure on that one, but interesting. And I still love the Mark III. I always say Alan's channel, obviously, predominantly a Mondeo channel. And Mark III, I followed one home this evening when I was coming home from work. And I still love the Mark III. I think that was one of the best cars Ford made.
I hope you all got your beers out.
Alan's got his Becks out. Look at that. That's a big bottle, Alan. Can I have that one, please? I'll let you do that. I'll mess it up.
Yeah, Kevin's got a bottle. Do you know what? These bottles of Coca-Cola, they've shrunk.
Yeah.
They used to be like that big. Now they're a little bottle.
Less sugar and less cola as well. Win-win. Cheers, go. Alan. Well, it dwarfs it against that bottle of Beck's anyway, doesn't it? Look at that. Cheers. Cheers, everyone. Nice chatting to you this evening.
Like I said last week, every live stream is another chance to have a beer.
Yep.
There you go.
Steve Perry. Evening, Steve. Evening, Alan. Oh, this is a good one. Datsun 120Y Estate.
I used to like them, little hatchbacks. They were quite smart looking little car.
1175cc gutless engine. Turning lock better than a London taxi. Drove my driving instructor potty by being able to do a U-turn almost anywhere in it. LOL. Yeah, now we're going to do a turn in the road. Is that what they used to say to you? And you just spin it round. Great.
They were nice looking. I used to like them cars. They were rust buckets, but they weren't bad looking for a Datsun.
No, the Datsuns were, yeah, that sort of shows the age now. Datsun before they morphed into Nissan, isn't it? But yeah, we're getting some great cars here this evening, so this is really good stuff. Ian Steele, oh, Morris Minor. You're not a fan of Morris Minors, Alan, are you, really?
Well, it's not what I'd have as my... How the hell did you get that as your first car? Did your mother give it to you? Because you don't. It's not like a kid's car, is it?
Well, you've opened up a little sort of sideline that I did want to talk about, because what Alan is saying, I suppose, is a Morris Minor, when you're a young lad and you first got your license, you want something sporty. And yeah. I think Alan's saying a Morris Minor isn't particularly sporty.
No, it's what your grandparents would have driven.
But I think a lot of it comes down to what you could afford to buy at the time, doesn't it? And a lot of people would have these cars. Ironically, I've seen this a lot of times in my life. Ironically, young lads, their first car will probably be something that someone older, like a pensioner, has had for years and looked after and done low miles, and then a young lad will come along and modify it and have that as their first car. So I always remember a lad I used to work with years ago. He wanted a Mark II Fiesta XR2, but when you've just passed your test, they're not going to insure you on an XR2. So he got a beige Fiesta Popular Mark II and put a set of XR2 pepper pot alloy wheels on it. So I don't think it really suited it, if I'm honest, not in that colour.
I think, Ian, you'd have to leave another comment and give us your explanation of why you purchased a Morris Minor as your first car. Because I would love to know.
But I'm going to defend you, Ian. I'm going to defend you because I like Morris Minors and I think they are a cool car, regardless of what Alan's saying here.
No, they're not. They weren't a cool car.
They're cool. They're easy.
They were cool if you were a classic owner, but for like a flyboy, that's what you were called back then when you were a kid. You were a flyboy if you had a nice car. And it wasn't going to be a Morris Minor.
So you're thinking people have turned up with a Mark 1 Escort or something, and then you've got a Morris Minor next to it.
Cortinas, Escorts, Granadas, stuff like that.
But we had a comment earlier, didn't we? I can't remember who said it. Apologies, but they said couldn't afford a fast Ford, so he just had his orange Mini. And that's what I'm saying. Perhaps Ian had to have his Morris Minor. Nothing wrong with that at all.
Minis were acceptable because they were sort of like you said, classless. anyone could have a Mini and no one would blink twice. But if you had a Morris Minor, they would think Grandad.
Well, I'll probably show my age now then, because I'm getting on a bit. I wouldn't mind a Morris Minor. Morris Minor Million in the lilac that they did.
Oh, Ian, you've really done something tonight. You have now. I had to change a clutch master. I think it was a brake master cylinder on a Morris Minor. Nuts and bolts it was. Right pick of thing. You had to have two people to do it. One under the bonnet and one under the flipping dash.
I thought they were easy to work on, Morris Minors.
No.
Oh,
They weren't too bad, but there were certain things that weren't very nice.
But don't forget, we're talking about Minis, same designer. Sir Alec Isigonis designed both of those. So, yeah, we'll have to disagree on that one, Alan. Agree to disagree, I think, won't we? Voxfan 2K, Rover 213S, the square boxy ones, was a great car.
Ones.
Yeah, the Mark 1. Got better on fuel the longer I owned it as bits rusted off.
The actual 213 engine weren't a bad engine.
Yeah, you had the 213 and then you had the 216 because they even did a Vitesse in that, didn't they? In the boxy one. That was the sporty one.
Yeah.
And the Vanden Plas.
I'm
But
sure
yeah.
they were 12 valve.
Not a bad little car at all. So if you want to, anybody not sure what that looks like, tune into one of these Freeview channels. I can't remember which one it is, Drama or something, if I'm allowed to say that. They're repeating sitcom Keeping Up Appearances. And the main character in that drives a Rover 200, that shape. And it's actually, I think it's Peterborough or Huntingdon registration, FL. So that's local to us, Alan. But yeah, very good. I didn't think of that one this evening. I'm trying to think of all the first cars somebody would have had. Rover 213, very nice. Toolbox says a 2006 Focus 1.8 TDCi. So...
Well, you can't be very old. That's all I can say.
Yeah, so
that's quite a modern car.
Mark II Focus. Yeah, you've still got some of those on your rental fleet, haven't you?
Yeah,
You've still got some of those now. Weren't you repairing one of those not long back? The bashed up one on your video, Mark II Focus, putting the new wing on it.
Yeah, that was an 05 plate, I think.
Yeah, that would have been one of the early ones, wouldn't it?
It's still going.
Thanks for that. Mechanic 1000, 1976 Mini 1000 Applejack Green, same as Mr. Bean's.
Wow.
Lovely. I bet you didn't have the padlock on the door as well, though, did you? Brilliant. Mini 1000. British Leyland at its best. William Bridges, hello from Aberdeen. Evening.
Hello.
Mine was and still is, a Volvo C35 cylinder diesel. Oh, that's a pretty decent first motor, isn't it? Not bad at all. You'll have to let us know, William. How long have you had that? Have you been driving long? Have you owned it very long, or have you just had it a little while? But yeah, Volvo, pretty cool. Canal Boating. Hi, Alan. Mark 1 Ford Escort. Can't remember what year it was manufactured, but I got it in 1978 with a rattly timing chain and rust.
You know, all them cars back then, like the Mark 1 Escorts, they rotted out and all that. But my God, if you'd only known then what you know today, you would have lovely restored that and kept that.
Yeah.
It'd be worth a bloody fortune.
Would now. The prices are going now.
I would absolutely love to have a Mark 1 or a Mark 2 Escort on that ramp so I can just go around it and make a video.
There you go. We'll put the appeal out there. Do you own a Mark 1 or a Mark 2 Escort so that Alan can film around it? That would be good, wouldn't it? Rob H. Oh, Morris 1300 GT. Now, that was the sporty one. You're saying
Well, that's a big Mini.
Yeah, but they were very smart. They were. I remember they had those lovely wheels on them, didn't they? Were they sort of Ross-style type wheels? And the little GT on the pillar, didn't they? They were quite cool. What colour was that, Rob? Did you have that sort of red, orangey red that they did? That was a nice colour.
If you got a rolling pin on top of your Mini, okay, you would have flattened it out and made it into a Morris 1300 or 1100. They've done 1100 as well.
Yep. And then don't forget, they did an even bigger version called the Morris 1800 at the time. Do you remember those? Before the Maxi, the 1800. So it's the same as manufacturers now. Nothing's changed. They just get that sort of styling and filter it up or down through the range, don't they? MSJ Cars Limited. Here's a good question. What do you drive now, Alan?
I drive what's called Shanks's Pony.
Alan hasn't got a vehicle at the moment, not since his van had to disappear.
I've been trying to tell people for months, whatever Klaus Schwab says, I obey. I own nothing and I'm happy. So I don't own a car at the minute. No, I haven't got nothing. I just ponce a car from work to get backwards and forwards. So until such a day, I'll tell you what my biggest gripe is. And I've said this before. I bought my van 16 years ago for £8,500. Today, to buy the same year van would cost me the same money. That's how bad it is. It is principle that I have not gone out and bought another one because it's daylight robbery.
Prices have they have shot up now.
Money is robbery.
But no, it's an interesting point Alan makes, because I've said before, I haven't got anything too fancy. I've just got a Vauxhall Corsa, a pretty basic one. But when I look at how much I paid for that now, if I wanted to buy the equivalent Corsa today, it'd be twice as much as I paid 9 years ago, twice as much. So prices have gone really, really through the roof, haven't they, Alan?
Yeah. You can always ride the bus.
Yeah, I can always do that.
With the big windows.
Yeah.
Put your Rick hat on so people can see you.
You're going to be doing that soon, Alan, are you? Be on the bus. Well, let's not mention that now, because that's another controversial thing, isn't it? Cutting all the bus services. You'll probably be waiting at the bus stop a long while. Killifus, hi. Hi, Killifus. Where are you watching this evening?
Hello.
Chris Maguire. Chris, evening, Chris. Evening, Alan and Kevin. My first car was a Mark III Escort 1.6 GL. I wrapped it round a tree after 3 months. Oh, I hope that wasn't too painful for you. Hope you didn't hurt yourself.
You must have been going some to do that. That's all I can say, because they kind of held the road pretty well, them Escorts.
Oh, I like the phrase "wrapped it around a tree" rather than just hit it. That would suggest you sort of went right round it. Stuart Allison, evening, Stuart. Austin Mini Mayfair broke down every Monday. Yeah, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Wow. So Mini Mayfair. So we've had a Mini City and a Mini Mayfair. We're doing well this evening.
Mayfair, was it the velour?
Yes, the velour seats, didn't it? That was pretty cool, that was.
But to have a name like Mayfair, it had to have something going for it, didn't it?
Yeah, well, Mayfair was part of the range, wasn't it? And then you had special editions like the Knightsbridge, Kensington, Piccadilly. They used all the different names. There's probably more special edition minis than any other car, isn't there? All these special ones they made. But yeah, I kind of miss the special editions today, don't you, Alan? We don't sort of have enough special edition cars, really.
Well, everything's so boring. I even drive past like the Ford garage, and there's nothing. It's all look the bloody same.
Yeah, there's no individuality now, is there? I think we're lacking a bit of that.
They should fire the designers and then get some with a bit of flair in, like they used to have. You remember cars of old? They all had their individual styles.
They did.
They all looked different,
and you couldn't mistake them, could you? I mean, I'm just going to talk for a second about one of my favourite classics. Of course, it's a classic I'm talking about. Rover P6. You couldn't mistake a Rover P6 for anything else. Such individual styling with that shark nose and sort of the lines of that. Absolutely brilliant car.
And we were just talking about the ST1.
Rover ST1. We was chatting about that before we started the live stream. I've been watching a YouTube video last night about a V8S in Triton Green that was a barn find. And what a car that was. But very radical for Rover at the time, Alan, wasn't it? After that P6, we're talking about the styling of the P6. Then to get this big hatchback, which was, they openly admitted, the designer admitted he kind of ripped off the Ferrari Daytona with the lights at the front, the styling of it. and the sort of line that ran down the side of it. But yeah, great car. And again, like Alan says, individual. You couldn't mistake it for anything else, could you? Not
No.
really.
No, and these days you don't. I guess. Well, I don't. I guess a lot of people don't even pay attention to what's going past you.
No.
You'd have to be something pretty special if you had to notice it.
I think I'm someone obviously who's interested in cars, but even today, do I know what cars are without reading the badge? Not really. Classics, I can tell you at 10 paces what it is, but the modern cars, they just all sort of blur into one, don't they? Anyway, Anthony, stop. Evening, Anthony. We're waffling on. Y-Reg 1.3 Maestro. Wow. So on a Y, that was one of the very first, wasn't it?
Margaret Thatcher.
Was it one that spoke to you? Because the top of the range ones, they were well known. It was a bit of a gimmick. It was the talking car, wasn't it? Did it say your seatbelt is not on or something like that?
I don't know what it said, but it did give out some commands. But that would be the top of the model, the top of the line.
Yeah, Tandem Pla. And they did the MG version of that as well, didn't they? MG Maestro.
Yep. Twin car. They done twin carburetors. And they've done in the Montego, they've done turbo versions. Went like stink, they did.
Yes, they were so let's think of this. 82, I think, isn't it? Y-Reg 82 was the Maestro, and then I think it was 84 they launched the Montego, which was basically the saloon version. Yeah. And that was in the Austin Rover days, just when they were sort of leaving the British Leyland kind of thing behind. Jean, evening, Jean. Morris Marina Coupe 1.3 in hand-painted blue. Painted with a brush. Yeah. A lot of you did used to do those things back in those days. Because we were just mentioning British Leyland. I suppose, yeah, that, as the joke was, that probably rusted before it left the production line. So you'd probably have to repaint it yourself, wouldn't you, just to keep the rust at bay on those?
Well, that was my second car. Marina.
Did you have the coupe or the saloon?
No, it was a four-door saloon.
Four-door saloon.
I did have a coupe, a 19. Oh, I can't even remember now. 73, I think it was.
Yes, I think it was 70. They launched the Marina. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an L plate. That was a blue one. That was a nice one though. Sold that to a vicar in the end.
Well,
but that was a nice car.
Yeah. But yeah, the Marina gets a lot of stick, doesn't it? A lot of people, Marinas, Allegros, that type of thing. But I think we look back at them with rose-tinted glasses a bit now, don't we? We do sort of like the nostalgia of them, the old British Leyland days.
They weren't as flashy as the Fords, as the Cortinas.
No, they weren't.
They just didn't have the edge on them. But they were all right. I mean, I used to love my Marina.
Was it the 1800 the TC on?
You
could get the twin carbon, couldn't you?
Yeah, 1800 TC.
Yeah.
If you had the badge in the front of that grille, that TC badge, in actual fact, that's probably even worth something today.
Yeah, I bet it is. We did see a Marina Coupe at Yaxley Festival Car Show last year. It was that was hand painted, funnily enough, wasn't it? In that sort of rusty colour. Yeah. And it had original Unipart sticker under the bonnet, which fascinated me. Mark Chadwick. Oh, now we've got something a little bit different. 1979 Talbot Alpine LS.
Yeah, I hope you had a radio in that car so you could hear the music, because otherwise you'd be hearing the engine rattling.
1.3, swapped it for the 1.6 GL 84 model, 250 quid, learned how to weld and the importance of routine maintenance bloody fast. Well, they were, so Talbot, yeah, 79, I think it was, they went through a bit of a turbulent period, didn't they? Because prior to 78, they were the Chrysler Alpine, because they were owned by Chrysler. Then I think Peugeot bought them, didn't they? And they became Peugeot Talbot, and they revived the Talbot name. But they had the Solara, which was the saloon, and the Alpine, which was the hatch. And then they had the big sort of boxy Talbot Tagora Executive. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that one.
Few and far between. And then, of course, early 80s, they launched the Samba, which was the little Talbot, wasn't it? Talbot Samba.
I do remember the Alpines, though. There was, I don't even remember, down in town, before it all got changed, They used to be Merkits,
Merkits on
Yeah.
Huntingdon Ring Road. For those of you that are local, that know the area, yeah.
and that they sold Talbots.
Did they?
Yeah. I always remember the engines in them Talbots. They always used to rattle.
Well, I remember as well locally, anybody local to the Huntingdon area, Witton, Camp Garage Witton, that used to be Burge, I think, didn't it?
Mm.
Burge, they did Peugeot Talbot, didn't they? Anyway, thanks for that, Mark. Nice that someone had a Talbot.
Which it's names you don't even hear of anymore. is it?
Exactly. Another name that's vanished. Stephen France. Vauxhall ain't changed much then. LOL. Ah, great. Dave Lorto. Hi, Dave. Ford Anglia van. I was waiting for someone to say they had a van as their first car.
Look at it, that's rare.
My cousin's first car, she had a Citroen Visa van. Do you remember those? So she didn't have a car, she had a van. Yeah, Ford Anglia van. They were cool. They did call them Ford. They didn't call those Thames, did they? It was actually a Ford Anglia van. Blondman 69. Mine was a yellow Alpha Sud that caught fire when I was welding it. It failed its MOT because the handbrake was broke, and it would take 10 hours of specialist labour to fix as it worked on the front wheels.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa, Alpha Sud.
Well, they were kind of specialist cars, though, weren't they? Alfa Romeo. They were always, they still are,
Yeah.
really.
Alphas, they're sort of notorious for being a bit problematic, I think, aren't they?
Well, they're not reliable, very unreliable. But
Yeah.
you kind of knew that when you buy it. It's like a I don't know the love of it really.
They've got quite a following now, though, haven't they? The old Alpha Suds. They're quite a following today. But anyway, thanks for that. Killer Fuzz. Ooh, this is quite a first car, isn't it? My first was a Ford Sierra 4x4, 2-litre petrol, 1991 year. So that's towards the end of Sierra production, isn't it? Because the Mondeo was that 93, I think, the Mark 1 Mondeo.
Do you know? I can't even think when the Sierra.
Yeah.
When did the Sierras end?
It was 92 or 93. I'm just trying to think when the Mondeo was launched. I think it was 93.
It was 1993.
Yeah,
They come out on a K, didn't they?
Yeah.
Cambridge.
that's right. So that's the last 2 years of production. So that would have had the black rear lights, wouldn't it? The lenses, they were sort of tinted black on those ones. But the 4x4, I think they're quite rare now.
Oh yeah, bloody hell. That'd have been certainly a good car to have as your first car.
Yeah, definitely. Would have held the road well, wouldn't it?
That was probably just before the insurance prices went through the roof.
Yeah, that was a bad time, wasn't it? Early 90s for insurance. Sean Oliver, he's put a picture up there of is that a Focus ST in orange? Good evening, Alan. My first car was a 1992 K-Reg white 1.1 Fiesta. So K, that was the sort of Mark III. Would that have been a Mark III, I think, wouldn't it? Mark III Fiesta. All right, so we've got another comment from Steve Perry. So he's talking about his Datsun. The 120Y did at least 50 to the gallon, as the joke was that I topped up the water more often than the fuel tank. Left bath with the gauge on empty, filled up at Membry. Crikey. That was good on fuel.
There weren't much to them, though, was there? They're quite a light.
They were very light, yes, that's true. Sean, he's put his reg up of his Fiesta. K136AKV. Have you checked on the DVLA site to see if it's still out there? I've done all that with my cars. I always have a look, see if they're still taxed, but I think only one of my former cars is still taxed. The others have obviously gone to the car showroom upstairs. Steve Perry, gauge stayed pegged for 2 days. LOL. Flea72. Hello, Alan and Kevin. My first car was a 1984 A-Reg Ford Sierra 1.6L. It was shite. You had to drive downhill to hit the speed limit. Did have a 5-speed box, though. Hmm.
No, there were. We used to have a lot of Sierras as taxis, and believe me, like, he said cars were individual. Well, even the same cars were individual. They all had their quirks,
Yeah.
and some of these Ford Sierras, they were absolutely dog shit slow, but other ones were like as quick as anything.
So let's think back to when the Sierra was launched, 1982. So that was an 84. So that was still an early one. Did they do a 1300, Alan, on the Sierra, or was the 1.6 the smallest engine they did?
They may have done it. I don't ever recall a 1300. The only
Anybody
ones
know?
I recall were the Pintos and the 1.6.
Yeah.
They started at.
I can't remember. I do remember the basic Sierra with the black plastic front around the headlamps. The early ones still had a grille, sort of bars. The top of the range ones had the flush front, but the basic ones had the sort of bar grille, and the real basic one had a black plastic grille and black plastic bumpers. Wasn't even color coded. But if you can find one of those now, I think they're worth a good bit of money. Paul Smith, 1972 Mark III Ford Cortina with a 1650 3.4 race engine, twin side draft Delauto carbs, 4-branch manifold. Reg was HLL treble 4K, sold to an American on Alconbury Jesse Connors.
So that's the earlier Cortina.
So 72 Mark III.
It's where's the dash gone? Yeah,
Yes.
the wedge
That's
dash.
right, yeah. The one that I didn't like. I preferred the later dash, didn't I? Because it was a bit of a funny, looked a bit funny.
I always preferred the later dash because it is the more modern at the time.
Yeah.
But now I look back and I look at the wedge dash and I think I'll still
You
like
like
that one
it?
again.
Was there much of a glove box on those?
No,
Because
not
they
much, no.
sort of swept away to give you more leg room, didn't they? That was the design of them. Okay.
They had, if I believe them right, they had actually wing mirrors, proper wing mirrors bolted
Yes,
on the wings.
on the wings rather than on the doors. Yeah. So if you got driving along, one of those had been knocked, you had to stop the car, get out to adjust it, didn't you? Yeah. Laser Capri, still got a Capri. Brilliant. That's great to hear. But my first car was a Mark 1 Escort 1.3 XL. So I'm guessing Laser Capri, that's a picture of your Capri there. Is that Caspian blue? Is it a 2.8 injection? Looks really nice, whatever it is. Fantastic. We love a Capri, don't we, Alan?
Oh,
Yeah.
Definitely.
That was actually, before I started driving, when I was a youngster, I always said I wanted a Capri. But I think by the time I got to drive, the insurance was cheaper on an Escort. So that's why I ended up buying an Escort and not a Capri.
You know, back in them days, you'd get a Capri. Well, a lot of people did, and you'd get them ladders, wouldn't you, on the rear leaf springs,
Yes.
and you would jack them up,
Yeah.
raise them up.
I remember
and
that.
You might even go as adventurous as to put a load of little lights along the back of the boot. You know, you could do all kinds of things with your Capris.
Yeah.
And of course, you had UB40, many rivers to cross, being played at full blast on your bloody wireless at the same time.
You're
Yeah.
a fan. I think you're a fan of the Mark 1 Capri, Alan, aren't you? I think you like the early ones.
I do like the early ones because they're a little good on the side wings.
Yeah, the little vents and the hockey stick down the side, as they called it, didn't they?
But I like all Capris.
I like the Mark III, like we've got here, the Laser Capri. Or maybe, yes, silly me, I'm saying, is it a 2.8 injection? I guess it's a laser, hence your username. But yeah, fantastic. Great to see. Steve Perry, KRU 80P was the reg. Ooh, not a bad number, is it?
Yeah, that even looks like a private plate.
Can you remember the reg of your Viva, Alan? Your 1967 Viva?
No, because that car was crap and I didn't really care about it.
See, you should remember, though. You're supposed to remember your first reg number.
I remember my first car, but I don't remember the reg.
Not the reg.
I can tell you the reg of my second one, my Marina.
Go on then.
KAG 294N.
Ooh,
The Cortina, Meg 828P.
that's a good one. Local, EG. Brilliant. And that's it. You don't remember your other Cortinas?
No, only the blue
Just
one.
that one.
was the one that's important because that's the one I had stripped down and I had it painted in
Purple.
it was a Rover colour. It was Caribbean blue mixed with purple pearl.
Ooh, nice.
And that very night, and it was like the paint was, you put the base coat on, you put the paint on, then you put the lacquer over the top. And I had it painted at Marshall, was in Huntingdon when it was the Rover Garage up St Peter's Road. And that done in a proper oven, and it's real hot in one of them ovens, them car spray ovens. And that night when I took that car out, I drove underneath some petrol station lights, and I'm telling you, no word of a lie, that car was glowing like luminous. Everyone was looking at it. But of course, you know, a year later, all the rust started coming through again, and it was downhill after that. But my God, that was a looker.
So that sounds quite expensive. Was that an expensive paint job, Alan?
Well, because I worked there, the guy, Ken Payne, he's a driving instructor now. I don't know if he's still doing it, but he's painted it because he was a car sprayer at the time. So of course, I done all the donkey work, stripping all the car to pieces, and we got it in the oven one Sunday morning, and he sprayed it.
Nice.
And I paid him I think it was a couple £100, something like that.
Nice.
But what hell, he was a proper professional sprayer, and it was a fantastic job he done.
Okay. R.I.P. Mr. C416ULL. Looks like it's gone to the heaven in the sky. Oh. So yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? You put your reg in, they're probably long gone. Mine was, while we're talking regis, mine was H454CEW, my Escort, but I think that sort of must have been off the road a long time. Long gone. Michael Clark, evening fellas. Evening, Michael. My first car was minivan, GGS 92E. So that was a 67, I think, wasn't it, on an E? But I was only 11 years old, just drove in the fields. First car on the road was an Escort Estate. All right. Yeah, some of you, depending where you live, could just drive around in the fields. Pretty cool, isn't it? So a little minivan to rag around in.
They done pickups as well, didn't they?
Mini pickups, yeah. And
you know, I've always got a little story. It's to do with a minivan. It was a Huntingdon Technical College when I was there once. There was a minivan where there's a whole class of us, and someone started the minivan up, and for whatever reason I don't know, but the throttle was stuck wide open, and the engine just revved up full pelt, and we all scattered. And there was only one guy who sort of like went back and had the brains to switch ignition off.
Oh dear. Cheers, Michael. Right, Brian Greenwood. Evening, Brian. Greetings, Alan. Really enjoyed your outing with your son flying the DJI Mini 2 drone. Any plans on filming some more flights when the weather warms up?
Well, funnily enough, I am going to do some. I did take it out Sunday just gone, because they're building a new care home where there's a crane just across the road from here, and they're building another care home. So if you get to old age pensioner status, you'll know that these care homes want to relieve you of all your life savings, but they'll put you in a nice little care home where they'll look after you.
Question though, Alan, are they building it near some traffic lights?
No.
All the care homes I've seen in this area, they always build them on a traffic lights. And I think, why do they do that? Surely, if you're in a care home, you want a bit of peace and quiet. Why would you be on a set of traffic lights with pedestrian crossings beeping all day and all night? I don't quite get the planning.
You know, there's a phenomenon at the minute. Everywhere you go, they're building care homes. It's that. There's a lot of that in it. That's what it is.
There's obviously a need for it.
Yeah, they're making a lot of money out of the old age pensioners. They're robbing them of their life savings. That's what they're doing. I'm telling you.
Darren Mears. Oh, B-Reg Metro City. Poverty spec or what? Metro. Yeah, I bet it was pretty basic. I mean, all of those cars back then, Metros, did they do a Metro with electric windows? They must have done, but most of them had wind-up windows, didn't they?
They did.
Windy windows, no power steering. Did you get a radio with a City? Probably.
No, I don't know. You might not do. In actual fact, I think radios were kind of like an extra in the early Metros.
Yeah. A lot of people did put their own aftermarket stuff in anyway, didn't they? Because if you got a basic car and it just had a radio, you probably wanted a cassette player. Or if you're a little bit older, you probably wanted an 8-track cartridge. Do you remember those? The old 8-track cartridges? precursor to the cassette. My dad's car had an 8-track player in it, so I'm showing my age there. Neil Sturgeon, if you can't get ahead, get a hat. My first car was a Triumph Toledo L Reg.
I remember the Toledos.
So what was the difference? You'd have to remind me.
It's a
Alan.
Dolomite.
What's the difference between a Toledo and a Dolomite? That's what I was going to say.
Not bloody much.
Not much.
It's Dolomite.
Similar shape, same shape.
they basically look pretty much the same.
Yeah, I thought they did, but I was never sure what the actual difference was. Maybe somebody knows. But yeah, pretty different, isn't it? Triumph. We're getting a few Triumphs this evening. 2006 chain Ford Focus Mark 1 1.6 gasoline, a rock. Now, we'll pick up on this. So we're talking about first cars. I'm just going to go off subject a little bit because we've talked about my first car briefly, Ford Escort. I've only actually owned 4 cars. I do tend to keep my cars quite a long while. So in sort of that photo that we put up, that was 25 years ago. So in 25 years, I've only owned 4 cars. But the best car I've owned was a Ford Focus Mark 1 1.6. That was really nice car to drive, nice car to own. Very good. John P. Ooh, a 1987 red Fiat Panda.
John, that's not a bird puller. I'm sorry to break the news to you.
They're desirable now, though, aren't they? If you've got a Panda 4x4, particularly, they're very desirable now, aren't they?
By who?
There are enthusiasts out there that love them, trust me.
Yeah, but we're not talking about people who collect classic cars. I'm talking about if you've got a Fiat Panda, you're not going to pull a bird.
You're talking about, yes. So if it was an 87, let's guess that he had that in the 90s. You think, yeah, it's not really a cool car. Right, who have we got next? Gary Mellett. Hey, lads, first car was a 1999 Volkswagen Golf 1.4. Well, that sounds pretty decent.
Well, yeah, you can't argue with that, can you?
No, can't really go wrong with a Volkswagen Golf.
For the hot hatches of the day.
And well built as well. They are decent cars, I have to say that. TTR Vision, a Dacia 1310. Oh.
What year would that have been?
Yeah. Was that the one? Was that the Dacia that's shaped like those old Renaults? I can't describe it. What's the Renault model I'm thinking of? Or the Simca shaped like those? I might be getting a bit mixed up, but I know that they did some Dacias that sort of shape. I think it might have been the Simca.
What was the Renault with the column change like that? Is that Renault 4?
Oh, the Renault 4, yes. Yeah, the little square shaped one. Yeah.
Sliding windows.
Yes, Renault 4. Yeah. Dave Stevens. Hi, Dave. D-Reg Ford Fiesta Mark II. Still remember the reg, D664JJT. First of many Fords. Interesting point. A lot of you, I would guess, have stuck with Fords. I said I've only owned 4 cars. 3 of them have been Fords. I like Fords, which I'm sure you've all got to know. Regular viewers are always talking about my classic Fords. David Giles. My first car was a Mark 1 Fiesta. Reg was OLJ512Y. The window washer was a pump on the floor next to the clutch. I crashed this car so much, and it still kept going.
It was a Mark 1 Fiesta. I took my driving test in.
Oh yeah, did you learn to drive in the Mark 1 Fiesta? Yeah. I think I remember you saying on one of our videos.
You know, the guy, the instructor, not the instructor, but the actual examiner, which was in Peterborough, where I had to take my test. I'd been warned about this, so I was ready for it. Because as we were driving along, and he was supposed to be giving me instructions what to do, he mentioned some woman walking down the side of the street, and I didn't turn to look at her. I carried my eyes straight ahead, because I think that's what he's expecting me to do.
So it was a test.
Test. I think it was. He was like an Irishman. He was funny, but he passed me. So, but he did say that. He goes, "Oh, well, she's a bit of all right, isn't she?" And I didn't look.
He didn't look. But once he got back to the test centre and he passed, he was straight out again to see if he could find her. Is that right? Right, what have we got here? So, David, thanks for that, David. Dean Knight, he's got a picture of a car there. I can't quite tell what that is. First car was a 1984 Ford Fiesta Popular Plus in brown. Didn't have the optional passenger sun visor, SIG lighter, or rear wiper. Yeah, is what I was talking about with the Escorts earlier. So you had to pay extra for a rear wash wipe, or unbelievably a passenger sun visor. Can you believe that?
I think Popular was just like the base model.
That's a Popular Plus.
Was maybe a little bit extra.
Yeah, what was the difference between a plus and a
Don't know.
non-plus? You must have got a couple of bits extra, but not a lot. I would
Maybe you
imagine.
got a set of mud flaps.
Yeah, not much. Probably a radio. I know some of them an electric aerial on things you used to get, didn't you, as well? Extras. Cheers, Dean. Oh, I've broken it now.
Where are you?
I'm here trying to get that one. Oh, going back to hide. Technical difficulties. Here we are. Little Otter's PS4 videos. Chrysler Avenger. Wow, 1.8 brown, no brakes, but it was quick. Bought for 300 quid in 1988. Yeah, so that would have been was that a 70s model, I guess? The Avenger. So the Chrysler Avenger.
Hatchback.
We was talking about earlier, Chrysler. So the Avenger, interesting car. I think that's probably had more names than any other British car. So it started life as the Hillman Avenger under Roots Group. Then it became the Chrysler Avenger. And then it was the Talbot Avenger. And then the chassis, they used the chassis to make the Chrysler / Talbot Sunbeam. That was based on the Avenger floor plan. So, yeah. Chrysler Avenger. Yeah, I remember those well. Chris Mills. Oh, 1994 AX Splash. 1 litre. Put a GT interior in it. Wheels and side skirts. Yeah, so Citroen AX. Do you remember those?
I do. I remember the Citroen AXs.
Citroen AX Splash. I remember those. They did a purple metallic, I seem to remember in that.
That's another car that's all long forgotten about now.
I can't remember the last time I saw a Citroen AX, to be honest. Michael Clark's second car was a Cortina 1.6. I crashed into the guy. I bought it off in under 2 hours. Bit daft, but there you go. And you've had somebody give you £2 there, Alan.
Oh, well, thank you.
Blondman 69.
We will spend that on more beer.
He won't waste it.
Thank you very much.
Car Addict Garage, Northeast, 1995 VW Polo 1 litre L. No power assisted steering, manual locking, manual windows. Yeah. Take it for granted now, don't we? Power steering, electric windows, central locking, all standard now, but not back in those days. Who have we got here? A. How you doing, A? And that's a ride-on child's milk float in that picture there. I'm loving that. That looks really cool. First car, 1985 Escort Gear, metallic grey in 1993, which I bought it from a car boot sale where it was for sale for £1,500.
Oh.
Wow. So you went to a car boot sale and you ended up with the whole thing, not just a boot. Brilliant. That's quite a thing to have a car boot sale, isn't it? I didn't know they allowed you to sell a whole car there. That's quite something, that, isn't it? Did you go looking for a car, or was that just something that you picked up, just a bargain as you was walking around? Wow. Dave's Recovery DNS. My first car was a 1989 Escort. Oh, so that was the year before mine. Mark IV. Very nice. Oh.
That's on his PlayStation.
Yes. Sorry, we just got distracted by the Blondman 69. My second, third, and fourth cars were more interesting. I had a Saturday job in the family insurance brokers and had access to cover notes and an erasable biro. don't think you should be telling us that. Dear, oh dear. Very good. Craig Cousins. Evening, Craig. Hi, both. My first car was a Mark 1 Fiesta again, which had a whopping 950cc engine, which I thrashed to death. Recon engine, then Recon gearbox, then new clutch. Then it was stolen from Blackpool.
Oh.
Yeah, quite a few of you had Fiestas. Craig Fevier. Evening, Craig. How you doing? Good friend of mine. Good to see you, Craig. Oh, I remember this well. My first car was a pea green Vauxhall Chevette 4-door saloon. Yes.
Shove it.
Was that a Y reg, Craig? I think it was a Y, wasn't it? 82. It was a very nice car, and I hope Craig doesn't mind me saying, unfortunately, that car, somebody, it wasn't Craig's fault. He wasn't even driving at the time, and someone ran into it head on and absolutely mullered it. And that was the end of that, really, wasn't it, Craig? And then I think the Chevette, because that got finished off, I think you had a Talbot Horizon. We were talking about Talbots. So that was another cool first car, Craig. Thanks for that. See you later. Car Addict Garage Northeast, 1988 Citroen AX 1.4 TZS. Not much different to the GT. Was a little flyer, good spec as well. So yeah, another Citroen AX.
No, there was lots of them about.
There was, and they, like you said, where are they gone? They've just vanished. I don't see them at car shows very often.
It makes you wonder, because a lot of them French cars, although they did rot, I mean, they didn't rot as much as like the Fords.
No.
The bodies tend to, everything fell off them apart from the body.
Yeah.
Just seemed to hold up a bit better. But, you know, it was a long time ago, obviously, went out and they've all gone.
Yeah, well, yeah, I suppose it was a long time ago. I mean, 93, we're talking 30 years ago now, aren't we? So, yeah, you do forget how the time flies, but I remember them very well when they were brand new. I think they were launched in, was it 86, 88, something like that. I can't remember what year they launched the AX, but yeah, nice little car. Anyway, Eddie Jones, evening, Eddie. Oh, a Wartburg Knight 353 in orange, 1974. Given to me by my dad when his eyesight started to fail him. It was like great. It did drink oil and petrol. Wartburgs, were they the two-stroke, whatever engine it is, or something like that?
I can't remember what engine. I vaguely remember the cars now. They were a shape on their own.
I think they were rear-engined, weren't they? And they had the boot in the front.
Do you know what?
The old Wartburg.
Eddie, we're going to look up the Wartburg because
cool.
I do remember seeing one.
Well, you had Wartburgs, you had Trabants, the old Skodas, of course, as well. They were all these Eastern Bloc cars, weren't they? Very, very iconic. Alan's just having a look, but I remember them well. And they had the little vents in the side, I think, didn't they? They were sort of a rounded shape. We're not going to be able to show you viewers, of course. That's the problem. But I think most of you will know what a Wartburg is, or a Wartburg. I don't know how you pronounce it correctly. So we're going to stick with this for a minute, Eddie. We're just going to have a look.
Oh, actually, I could just go into Google.
Yeah, just Google it. We're just going to have a look. Yeah, that's exactly. Alan's just clicked on a picture. That's the exact thing I'm thinking of.
There you go.
Wartburg 353. That's the one. Yeah, in orange. There's one. Look, there's an orange one. So it's probably like the orange one there.
They do look like Soviet Union.
Yes.
Type of cars, didn't they?
They are. Yeah.
What you would expect. But it was like
popular in the UK as well, though. A lot of people did have them because I think they were quite economical, quite easy to run, weren't they? But you've put it did drink oil and petrol, so perhaps that was a myth that they were economical. Craig Cousins, got it back. This was the car that was stolen. It was found in Manchester. I smashed the front in 3 times. So not much of the original car left in the end. LOL. Right. Steve Perry has left us another comment. Hello, Steve. He's talking about his Datsun again. First MOT on the 120Y was a £5 in parts for a pair of front brake hoses. Pattern water pump was an annual change as they leaked.
Yeah, mind you, Steve, £5 back then was a lot of money.
Yeah, that is true. Ethan Frost, evening even. Would you recommend putting premium diesel in from time to time?
Well, you know how it goes. The cheap supermarket diesel is probably not all that much. They do say that if you spend the extra money and put the premium diesel in, you'll get better performance and better miles to gallon. But it's the mentality, you see, because it's more expensive. You think, no, I'll just go for the cheap stuff. It depends what car you're driving. If you don't care about the car you're driving, just keep putting the cheap shit in it. If it's a nice car and you like your car, then I would put some decent diesel in it once in a while and see what the difference is. You may well notice. Be surprised.
So Ethan has left us another comment. Cheers. My first car was a VW Polo 2001, and now I've upgraded to a Ford Focus 1.8 TDCi, and I love it. So he's got a Focus. So yeah, a bit of premium diesel in that. That should go quite nicely. Andy Bramwell. Evening, Andy. Morris Marina 1275 Coupe.
Yeah. They weren't a bad looking car.
No, they were pretty cool.
Especially if you had some big fog lights on the front or I don't know, driving lights.
And the nice set of wheels on those, yeah.
You could turn it into a rally car.
Yeah.
The coupes weren't bad looking.
No, they were a bit more individual, weren't they? Because you think things like the Marina, was that supposed to go up against the Cortina or the Escort? What was it pitched at?
I don't really know whether it's Cortina or Escort. But
No.
It lost in both categories.
Yeah. But the Coupe was a bit more individual to the Fords at the time, wasn't it? Unless you had a Capri, of course. Julian Heap. Hi, Julian. The first car I had was a 1989 Austin Metro City with a 998cc A+ engine. You'll remember those, Alan. I did some head work to it, port and polish Mini Cooper spec valve springs. Went very well till I drove it into a post. Ooh, sounds painful. Yeah, Metro.
I'm going to tell this other little story now. As soon as you brought up Metro, when I used to work at Marshall's, there was the guy. There was a guy employed there to road test the cars, a quality controller. Whenever you'd done a job or a mechanic done a job, he would then road test the car and he would check it, the work you've done, to make sure everything was up to scratch. And that was part of his job anyway. And he pulled me over one day to this Metro, and he turned the ignition key and cranked it over to start it. And the car just lurched off because it was in gear and ran straight into a brick wall. And he goes, as I was saying, this car's got a running problem. It was as funny as fuck, I'm telling you. But it had to go for some body work first before I could do the repair on it.
God. Anthony Wild. My first car was a Nissan Cherry.
Oh, I remember them.
Yeah. Then an XR3i and then a Capri 3.1S.
Ooh.
Whoa. That's quite a varied catalogue of cars there, isn't it?
Is the Nissan Cherry the one Jeremy Clarkson or someone like that? They got a big crane and they launched it.
Don't remember.
I'm sure it was a Nissan they got. They got one. You know them medieval slingshot things that you can toss boulders and stuff. I'm sure they got a car. I'm sure it's a Nissan Cherry.
More than likely. They used to do a lot of mad things with cars, didn't they? So it probably was. Mark Van Dyke. Austin Allegro 1.3 Super. KCE 196p. LOL. So the Allegro does divide opinion. A lot of people will say it was the worst car ever made. What do you reckon, Alan?
They called it the Austin Agro. But I was very impressed with a certain Allegro Vanden Plas because it was well specced out for the day.
Picnic tables in those, didn't they? In the back, and the big Vanden Plas grill.
Leather seats. It had the big grill, didn't it? Like the Rolls Royce grill sort of thing.
That's right.
I don't know. They had a lot go wrong with them, but what didn't back then?
I think it was the styling, wasn't it? The Allegro. It sort of became a bit of an odd shape. The designer originally intended it to be a lot sleeker, but it kind of just sort of like expanded and became this funny sort of bulbous shape. I don't mind them at all. The Allegro was launched in 1973, but yeah, kind of fell foul of that British Leyland image at the time. But I think, like a lot of these old cars, they've got quite a following now. Out and about, opinions on EGR blanking, pros versus cons. Thanks.
Well, I think if you can blank an EGR valve off, then that's a job bloody well done, isn't it? That's one thing less to go wrong. EGRs are nothing but trouble. Problem after problem. That's what EGR valves are. And what are they for? To save the planet. They're all to keep the emissions down. That's what it's all about. And they're constantly going wrong. So if you can blank an EGR valve off, if it's giving you problems, that's it. Forget about it. I would blank it off in a heartbeat. And if it's one of them more advanced cars, you can always get the map guy round to blank it off for you with his laptop.
So you've covered the pros, Alan. Are there any cons in doing it?
Not really. No, with the EGR out of the way, that's one thing less to go wrong. It's not going to affect the running of the car. It normally affects the running of the car when it goes wrong.
Yeah.
Definitely, it'll make you break down in a lot of cases. But it's basically like if you've blanked the EGR valve off altogether, and say you've had someone come around and remove the software for the EGR, and it's gone. So it's basically like the car doesn't have an EGR valve on it. So it's only pros, really. You remember many cars in the past never used to have all EGR valves. It's all when the emissions got tightened, more legislation.
So where would you stand on like MOTs then, Alan, if you blank that off? Would that affect your emissions result?
No,
not at all.
No, it's not going to affect emissions at all. As long as the car's running fine, it's not going to affect. All it does, the EGR, is put exhaust gases that have been burnt through the cylinder already. It puts a small amount of exhaust gases that have been burnt back through the engine again, to be burnt a second time, to make the engine more efficient and less pollutants coming out the exhaust. That's all it comes down to.
So would it affect the efficiency if it makes it more efficient
No.
by doing that? No, not really. So you're
You
not
wouldn't
really going to notice. Not going to notice. Paul Keenan. Hi, Paul. Oh, my first car was an Austin Allegro. It spent more time off the road than on the road. I wonder what colour Allegros you chaps had. I remember a colour called Blaze, which was an orangey red, and then there was Harvest Gold, wasn't there, which was that sort of beigey gold colour.
Well, I'm sure there's some people out there who definitely know their Austin Rover colours.
Did anyone have an Allegro in Tundra? That was a good colour. That was sort of a dark olive green sort of colour. Yeah, I remember that one. Blonde Man 69. Gear had RWW, rear wash white. Thanks for that. It was the early Sierras that lacked that one until the gear. So, Hope's on barking. You right, Hope? What's up? You okay? Thanks for that, Blonde Man. Cheers. So I knew someone would be able to answer that for me. Oh, she's up out. Okay. Where are we now? Sorry, I've switched the comments off. Got distracted by Hope. So yeah. So we've clarified that the gear did have a rear wash wipe. That was the Mark III Escort I was asking about earlier. Robert. Fantastic. Peugeot 205 1.8 diesel, not a turbo, D-Reg. Now, I'm glad somebody had one of these as their first car, because that was actually the car that I learned to drive in, Peugeot 205 1.8 diesel. So, not a bad car to learn in at all. It was pretty decent, actually.
I always used to wonder why the French put their engines in. I'm not talking about diesel, but the petrol engines. They were always sort of like sitting at an angle.
Yes. Slight angle. Yeah. Good point. Anybody know the answer to that? Was there a reason behind it? There must be some sort of design reason, mustn't there? Michael Johnson. My mate's brother had a 1983 silver 2-litre Capri. He always played Snap. I've got the power. Do you remember that? Oh, that one was, what year was that? 1990, I think, wasn't it? Snap. Something like that. 1991. Round about there, early 90s. But yeah, an 83 2-litre Capri. Oh, wouldn't we love one of those now? 40 years old. We're just looking up Snap.
1990.
It was 90. That was not a bad guess, was it? Not bad memory. Wow. So yeah, early 90s, driving around in the Capri. Very nice. Blomman, I'm sure I've got a Viva HC Stromberg carb in the shed. Oh, the old Stromberg carburetors. Remember those? Yeah.
They were like, if I remember rightly, they were a bit like the, I forget, what's the name of them other carburetors that went on the...
Weber's?
No, not Weber's.
No.
They had a little black bit that you undone and pulled out and you put oil in there.
Ah,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, I know what you mean anyway. Oh, are you coming in?
Hope's back. Right, cheers for that. So if anybody needs a Viva HC Stromberg carburetor, Blomman is your man. Steve Perry, back in the days of the Ford Escort, when one overtook you, you knew that it would turn off at the next side road. LOL. A bit like certain cars today. I won't mention any names.
That's the SU carburetor.
Oh, the SUs. Retro says, first car, Vauxhall Victor FD Estate, J-Reg, 1972. Now, the FD was my favourite Victor. Lovely car that was, wasn't it? That was what they called the Coke bottle styling again. Had that nice sweep down the side. And they did, didn't they? The VX490 or the Ventura. I kind of like the Ventura, the luxury one. That was nice. A standard rear washer on my 1985 Escort 1.6 gear, sunroof, but rear windows were manual. Yes, that's right. Electric fronts and windy rear windows. Yeah. Very cool.
Believe me, a lot of cars are still like that today.
Yeah, they are. The power windows all round is becoming a bit more common. Do your Mondeos, the later ones, Alan, the Steve Taxis, have they got electric windows all round?
Up until 17 plate, they were still using winder windows on the back.
Were they?
Yeah.
But now they're electric all round.
Yeah, the 18 plates had the electrics all round.
Kieran 18, evening Alan. My first car I got when I was 12 years old is a 1998 Vauxhall Corsa B. Still own it to this day. Has almost 200,000 miles on it and never missed a beat. Hope to get it back on the road one day. Wow, what engine's that got in it, Kieran? That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, the Corsa B. So, of course, the Corsa B was the first Corsa we had in the UK, but it's called the Corsa B because in Europe, the Nova was called the Corsa, Opel Corsa. So that's why, although it was the first generation, it's called Corsa B in the UK.
That'll explain something then, because you got the Vectra B as well, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so they're all the Opel names they adopted over in the UK. Dave Lorto, Alan, Mark IV Mondeo Estate, rear knock-in. Sounds like exhaust, but isn't trailing arms. Done. Springs and drop links still not. Oh, right. Sorry, I've misread that. Sorry, Dave. So he's got a Mark IV Mondeo Estate with a rear knock-in. It sounds like the exhaust, but it isn't. He's done the trailing arms, the springs, and the drop links, and it's still knocking. Any ideas?
Well, there isn't a whole lot there, really. You've either got something loose or a shock absorber, top bush or something like that, or the shocker itself. You know, shocks can knock, especially front ones. I know that the front shocks on the Mark IVs did knock, and it was the actual ram, that goes inside the shock. You get it to a certain point, and you bump, 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 bump. So we never had any estates as the Mark 4s. So I don't really know, but I can imagine if it could well be a shock. Maybe disconnect it, take it off the car or something like that, and then see if the knocking's still there. You can still drive around without the shock on it, then you'll know.
Northern Monkey, Mini trade-in at the garage I was apprentice at. The early one with a start button on the floor. I ragged the living daylights out of it. So another Mini first car. So yeah, cool to hear that quite a few of you have worked at garages. That's good to know.
Well, at least you all know what a real Mini is, don't you?
Yeah.
Not a Puff's handbag, BMW Mini. And you don't know what, I can hardly call these modern BMW Minis because they're not mini, are they?
No, they're not the same size. No way. No. I must admit, I was skeptical when I saw the new Mini when they first launched it, early 2000s. I wasn't sure if it would take off, but what do I know? They've sold bucket loads of them, haven't they?
Yeah, they have really, haven't they? They're sort of like that's what when you look at a Mini now, that's what you expect to see is a BMW Mini.
You too.
A lot of people have forgotten what a real Mini is.
Yeah. Ian, evening, 95 Ford Fiesta 1.1L. 95, so that would have been, what shape was 95? I can't remember if that was the last of the Mark IIs or the early, not Mark IIs, Mark IIIs, or an early Mark IV with a droopy front. Can't quite remember now, 95, but yeah. Another Fiesta. Quite a lot of you have had Fiestas as first cars. It seems quite popular. Dave Hughes, good evening, guys. Evening, Dave. My first car in 2004 was a 1994 55 brake horsepower weapon Nissan Micra 1 litre.
You weren't a pizza delivery guy, were you?
So was that the K10 or was that the last?
Did that old to be K10?
94. It was either one of the last K10s or an early 11, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they came out about 94, I think. Craig or no? Craig Fevier, are you still watching? Because Craig actually has got a K10 Classic Micra as his classic car. So let us know when did the K10 finish production? Sam Wormsley, he had a Fiesta. Oh, a Mark VI Fiesta Zetec S. Wow. That's a cool first car, that is, isn't it? Nice, the Zetec S. Very nice car. So Mark VI, was that the squarish one, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you know there's that many versions of Fiesta?
Lose track of the mark, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I think that's the squared off one. But yeah, nice car, the Zetec S. I like those. Blondman's back, 1987. White XJ6. My mates hanging out of the window pretending we were in a White Snake video. I remember that video. Well, I don't know what song that was for. What was the White Snake video with the Jag XJ6 is in them? Ah, yeah, I remember that. I remember that video. Brilliant. He had an Audi 80 B3 2-litre 3A. So is that a check?
Audi 80 is I think it's a bit more squarer than the.
It was a bit smaller. It's sort of like a baby Audi 100, wasn't it?
Oh, let's get it up.
Audi 80. What year was that one then, Raf? Audi 80 B3. Was that the newer one, the later one? We're just looking at some pictures. Sorry, you can't see them.
Yeah. It was like a boxier shape than the more modern ones. If you took an A4, they're all rounded, but these are like squarish.
Yes, that's right. The Audi 80 was the precursor to the A4, wasn't it? I think the A4 replaced the Audi 80. Is that right? I think it did, but yeah. Very good. Mondo daft as a brush. Evening, Mondo. Evening, big fella.
Hello.
How's your belly for pizza and whiskey? Hope you're keeping warm and keeping Kevin fed and watered too. Embarrassed to say my first car was a Mark I Fiesta 1.3 gear with concrete sills. Nothing wrong with that. No need to be embarrassed about a Mark I Fiesta gear. And yep, he's keeping me watered all right. Look, so thanks, Mondo. Good to hear from you.
talking of that, while you're on that, I'm just going to stick the heating on again because I think the
Okay. Right, while Alan's dealing with that, Little Otters says, "Hi, Alan, Matt here. Alan's run off, and I should be. I'll wait and speak to Alan about this one in a second because he needs to read this. But thanks for all your comments so far. Great wide variety of first cars, and yes, funny how they stick in our mind, isn't it? We always remember them. So some good stuff. Right, Alan, I've got to read you this comment. Hi, Alan, Matt here. Thanks to your video, I got my seized injector out today after soaking it in EGR plus turbo cleaner for the last 2 days. Used a long crowbar and mole grips like your good self. So you see,
seized injector out today
Hope, how you doing?
after soaking it in EGR turbo cleaner. Used
Which
a
is
long
feeding
crowbar.
hope.
Yeah, you've got to be very careful with injectors. That's the problem.
There you go,
It's
mate.
best. It's called patience because if you try and go for it and you break it, you're just in a world of shit. It's best to pour a load of even Coca-Cola. You can pour Coca-Cola down the bloody where the injectors sit, and that will corrode. That's why you shouldn't drink too much Coke, and that will actually corrode the carbon. But yeah, I had an injector in my Vito van that I couldn't get out. I needed to get it out because it was leaking. No, it weren't leaking. I'd moved it a bit and I couldn't fit the clamp back on. I left the clamp off and I drove it around for about 2 weeks with no clamp holding the injector down. And one day it just popped out and that was it. Clouds of smoke everywhere, but at least the injector come out and I was able to sort of like fit a new seal at the bottom. But yeah, when you get a stuck injector, it's just time and patience to get it out and take your time. But that's great if you got it out.
Now, I have to just say, slightly off topic, Hope, we've just fed Hope with a treat. She's had one treat and she's gone. And now she's come back because Alan's called her. But what a placid dog just to go with one treat and then disappear. That was really nice. Cool. Anyway, I'm glad you was managed to help Matt there with his little issue. So
well, it's things like that. You want to get the job done, and you can't because you're stuck. And you know if you go too hard with it, you're going to break something.
Yes.
And then you're in a situation where you have to break something, or you just sort of like say, "Well, I'm going to put this to one side, and I'm going to have to wait it out." And you know, that's the way it goes sometimes.
Right, Steve Perry. Hi, Steve. Chalk blocks washer bottle pumps if you fill them up with tap water from a hard water area. So he's saying that chalk will block the washer bottle. So we had that issue earlier, didn't we? Blocks the pump if you fill it with hard water.
Well, hard water is where we are here. If you go down to like south of England, you get soft water. And you can, if you went down to like, I don't know, Torquay, right, and you run the tap over your hands, you can tell the difference in the way the water hits your hands. Because up here, the water's full of bloody limescale.
Yeah.
And you know when you boil your kettle and you get loads of limescale in your kettle and your iron and all stuff like that. You go down, and years ago they used to tell you to fill your cooling system up with soft water and you condense, distilled water.
Yes.
They called it. It'd been boiled.
Was it ionized water as well? Yeah.
Yeah. You could basically take the hard water and you could boil it and it would remove some of the impurities. But you could go to the auto part shop and you could buy the ionized water and use that for your cooling system to stop it all scaling up.
Yeah, scaling up. Washing machines live longer with Calgon. Other products are available. He's coming back at me with the Michael Caine quote. Not a lot of people know that. My name is Michael Caine. Brilliant. Better than my impression as well. Nice one, Yari, Ford Cortina 1.3L 2D 1967. And I drove 9 years. Wow. So a 67, that would have been a Mark II Cortina. Very, very cool. Love the Mark IIs. I think the
no.
probably the greatest Cortina ever was the 1600E, wasn't it? Mark II. That was such an iconic Cortina. Even today, it still turns heads with those Ross-style wheels and the extra gauges on the dash. They really were onto something with that. They never really topped it, did they? All the Cortinas after that, they never really topped the 1600E. Great car. Fishing Van Life. Passed testing in 1986 in my Viva HC 1256cc. Paid the handsome sum of £100. Had it 2 years, then got a Capri Mark 1.
That was a nice little upgrade.
That was, yeah. Viva HC. Oh, Nigel Robb, look at that. So his first car, Vauxhall Forenza.
God damn you!
Now, did you have the twin headlamps, the twin round headlamps, or just the normal rectangular ones? And then they did that fancy droop snoop Forenza, didn't they?
Yeah, the Forenza
Inspired by
was
racing.
the nice the model
That
to
was,
have.
yeah. It just looked cool. It was quite, when you look at the Forenza now, it had quite a big sort of back, that sort of coupe. It was quite big, wasn't it, really? Quite a long two-door style, but yeah, lovely car. And did they have that Viva HC? They had the dashboard, that the speedo that went across the dash, didn't they?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like an American style,
Sort of
wasn't
went
it? Like
right
a long
across. Yeah. Long
and
strip.
the needle would go like.
Yeah. Quite a design though as well, weren't they? Stephen France. Evening, Stephen. My first car was a light blue 1.5 all aggro, like it. 1979 T-Reg was a great car to start with. LOL. So yeah, a few Allegros around.
I see no one's had the balls to bring out the I owned a Maxi as my first
Oh,
car yet.
Maxi.
They
That would be cool.
they were big old cars inside though, weren't they?
The Maxis were, yeah, and they replaced the 1800 I was talking about, the Austin and Morris 1800. The Austin Morris 1800, they were a big car, but they had a separate boot. The Maxi, of course, introduced the hatchback, so they were quite cavernous. You could put a lot of gear in those, couldn't you?
Did anybody have a Princess?
Oh, now we're talking Princess, yeah. Great, the old wedge-shaped Princess. They never, I think they just called it, rebranded it and just called it a Princess. It started life as an Austin or a Morris or a Wolseley with that fancy grille on the front, the wedge shape. 1975, I think they launched those, didn't they? And they had the hydroelastic suspension. They were very very unique. Like Alan was saying earlier, very unique car. You couldn't really confuse the shape of a Princess with anything else, could you?
No. They had the round headlamps, and the Ambassador had the square headlamps that followed it.
The Ambassador, that the hatchback, so similar to like the Maxi. So it started off with a separate boot as a Princess, then they facelifted it, called it the Ambassador, and stuck a hatchback on it. But a company called Crayford, that was well known for making convertible cars, they did a hatchback version of the Princess. I wonder if any of those still survive out there. Probably not many, if any. Sam McLaughlin, beer's coming up soon for me after today. So, okay. You've not had a great day, Sam? Power. Hi from Estonia. Greetings. How you doing?
Hello.
And my second car was 1989 Audi 5000, all extras, USA, automatic. So what was an Audi 5000
I don't
in
know.
Estonia?
I don't know what that was.
Let's look it up.
Move along.
Let's look it up. Let's look up what an Audi 5000 is, because you're on Audi 80 still. We're interested to know this. I asked at the start, people from all around the world, we wanted to know, wow, Audi 5000.
That's a big old car.
That's a beast. That's brilliant.
Gee. I think it's doing an estate version as well.
Oh, that looks like the Audi 200.
They do a wagon.
So I think in the UK it was called the 200 by the looks of things. That's quite a car, that was.
And they did a Facebook? I know.
Blimey. That is quite a car. Nice to hear from you from Estonia. Good. Have a good evening. Thanks for joining us. GS425. I'm similar age to Alan, but I had bikes until I was told I had twins on the way. LOL. So passed car test 2 a bit later. First car was a yellow Fiesta 1.1 gear, signal yellow. Then Reed Green Mark II Cavalier. Reed Green.
Cavalier.
Oh, Mark II. That was my favourite Cavalier, I think, the Mark II. That was a nice shape, that one.
Well, guess what, GS? I had bikes, although they weren't the bikes you were probably driving. I had scooters.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying about these scooters, yeah.
I had a Honda Melody, which was, I think, was a 1982 Honda Melody, 50cc, twist and go. Then I had a Vespa 125.
Vespa.
And I put a Ginelli exhaust on it, which made it sound better. And I went to red car scooter running on that scooter.
Cool. How long did it take you to get there?
A flipping long time. But it was fun. It didn't matter how long it took. It was fun. It was a national scooter run.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. Steve Perry, the 120Y did indeed rust its way to the scrapyard. So, yeah, the rust got the better of the Datsun. Saeed, hello, UK. Hey, evening. How you doing?
Says in Montenegro.
Montenegro. Wow. What kind of cars do you drive in Montenegro? What did they have over there? We're not sort of fully well versed on these worldwide cars.
Well, he's kind of in between the Soviet bloc and the Western world.
Yeah.
So it could be anything, really, couldn't it? So
I'd be interested to hear. It's probably the wrong time of day for someone to be watching in Australia, but I'd love to hear from anyone in Australia that had a Holden as their first car. They were sadly gone now, aren't they? Holden, they don't exist anymore, but they were kind of the Australian arm of General Motors. They got swallowed up by General Motors. But if you watch films like Mad Max, they've got all Holdens in them, haven't they? And I'm not well up with the models, but
did you want another Coke?
I will. I'll have another one, please, Alan. Thank you. Cheers. But yes, thanks for that. Millsy. All right, Millsy. I put a video up on YouTube. If you have a chance to listen, cheers, mate. So Millsy's asking you to watch a YouTube video. So Alan will check that out a bit later. Thank you. Mondo After the Brush had driving lessons in a Saab 99. First Saab we've heard about this evening. Bad habits from day one. My dad said, just leave it in third gear and it will go around the corner, and had to pass my test in a 1 litre Mark 1 Micra. Big difference. Yeah. Those Micras quite easy to drive though, weren't they? I found them quite easy to drive.
Do you know what, Mondo? That's not a very good looking car, is it?
The Saab.
No.
And it looks how a Saab should do, doesn't it? That's what you think of when you think of Saab.
It's not bad looking from the back. That white version of it looks pretty good.
The turbo was the one everyone wanted, didn't they? The 99 turbo with those wheels that you're looking at there.
The Saab that sticks in my mind is the Saab 900.
Yeah, that was the next model up, wasn't it? And then you got the 9000 after that. John, my first car was a Ford Focus Mark 1 1.6 petrol Z-Tech in Moondust Silver, Y Reg. Very nice. So that was pre-facelift on the Y. Yeah, Moondust Silver was very popular colour on that Focus. I remember when it was launched in 98. I saw the first one I saw was in Moondust Silver, and that was a Z-Tech. Had those nice wheels on with the kind of twin spokes, didn't it? Very cool. Ah, brilliant. Sprograt. My first car was an E-Reg Vauxhall Nova 1.3 SR in
That's
red.
the first person tonight who's mentioned the Nova.
Vauxhall Nova, and the SR, was that the one with the black? The bottom half was black, and it had those dark wheel trims on it. I think it might have been, mightn't it?
I'm not sure, but they were ever such a flipping popular car.
They were. And again, you don't see many today. So I'm guessing as it was an SR, that would have been the hatchback, wouldn't it? Rather than a saloon. Oh, so Saeed had a Mark 6 Escort 1.6 TD in Montenegro. Cherry metallic station wagon. So it was the estate car. A couple of you have had estates as your first cars.
Estates are handy.
They are very practical, yeah.
They're very handy in Montenegro.
Thanks for that, Saeed. David Singleton, greetings, guys. Aha, my first car was a Talbot Horizon. Very, very lamented car now, aren't they? Forgotten about. I've seen a few at shows. But you had the Sunbeam and the Horizon. The Horizon was just a bit bigger than the Sunbeam. I think the Sunbeam was a 3-door and the Horizon was a 5. Is that right? I seem to remember. And my friend Craig Fevier, who was on earlier, he had a Talbot Horizon, red one. LJD 201X, if I remember rightly.
There you go. There's a Talbot Horizon.
Talbot Horizon. Great.
Do you know what? To be honest with you, it doesn't look that bad a shape.
They weren't a bad car. Not a bad car at all. And ideal for a first car, weren't they? Sam McLaughlin. Oh, my God. Look at this, Alan. We've started something now. Morris Minor is Sub-Zero in Top Gear terms. So he's talking about those of you that remember, Top Gear used to have a thing called the Cool Wall. And they would have how cool a car was. And if it was Sub-Zero, that was as cool as you could get. So there you go, Alan. Sam's saying Sub-Zero. And I don't know if he's being genuine or sarcastic, but there you go.
No, I think he's being sarcastic.
Do you think so?
Because Morris Minor to me would be on the lower end of the scale.
Yeah, you'd have it the upper end of the board.
It wouldn't even be on the cool board.
No.
It'd be on the I'm a collector.
It'd be on the uncool board.
I'm a hippie or no, not even a hippie. Something else.
Hippies had Volkswagen Beetles or Volkswagen Campers, didn't they? Not Morris Minors.
I've been married for 50 years. I have a Morris Minor.
Morris Minor van. It was the thing, wasn't it? For the utilities, GPO, post office, loads of those about. They sold them in very large numbers. Mondeo Allen. Oh, that should be your handle, shouldn't it, Alan? Mondeo Allen. Good username. Talbot Sunbeam 1.3 with a single 40 and rally exhaust. Yeah, Talbot Sunbeam.
The 40s, the carburetor.
So the Sunbeam, of course, they did a TI, which was a sporty one, but everyone remembers the Lotus Sunbeam. That was a car. I went to the NEC car show last year and they had a whole row of these Lotus Sunbeams. That was amazing to see all those. Steve Perry, Minis were classics. Oh, Minis were classless. Sorry, Steve. Minis were classless due to Paddy Hopkirk. Good point. Oh, Paddy. 37, wasn't it? Is Mini, was it EJB 33, the reg, something like that? Very well known Mini, wasn't he? And great driver, Paddy Hopkirk.
You know, a lot of these, you go back to these Talbots, the shape hasn't changed much between the different makes.
No, they could definitely got that family look, haven't they?
I think they had one architect who designed all the cars.
But they did the job. They did the job, didn't they? Cousin 72. Remember my dad got our first family car, Hillman Super Minx. Yeah, Hillman. We've already covered the name Hillman vanished, swallowed up by Chrysler, and then that became Talbot. But the old Hillmans and Hillman Super Minx, Hillman Super Snipe, Hillman Hunter, the later one, wasn't it? They were a nice car. GPS OMG, Ford Capri 1.6S was my first car. Hello, guys. Evening. 1.6S. That's a rare car now, isn't it?
It'd be a nice one.
Yeah, that would be a nice one to have now. So was that Mark III, I guess? Mark III 1.6S? Could have been a Mark II, I suppose. Steve Perry, I have an XGF looking for a first car. She is 5 foot nothing. Suggestions, please, from those of the same stature.
I already replied to that one when you sent me an email. I said a Fiat Panda.
But which Fiat Panda? Not the one you was having to go at earlier. You were talking about the latest Fiat Panda, the newer ones.
You can get newer ones.
Yeah, the more modern one.
Yeah, you can get newer Fiat Pandas. They're little car, aren't they?
But I would honestly say, if you're looking at modern cars, you can adjust the seats pretty good on all of them, can't you? So just because she's 5 foot nothing, you could drive anything, really, couldn't you?
Oh yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Depends what she likes, what type of thing. I mean, we could have another incident here where you say to this ex-girlfriend, oh, how about a Fiat Panda? And she goes down the Allen route, absolutely hates them because they're the equivalent of today's Morris Minor. She might think it's not sporty enough. She might have her eyes on a Mazda MX-5 or something. You don't know, do you?
Yeah, but she might be sort of like like little people. They like big cars. So why should they just get a Range Rover Vogue or something?
Well, first car. We've got to remember it's a first car. So we're not going to insure a Range Rover Vogue, I don't think, are we? So the Fiat Panda's more realistic. What I'm saying is, in her mind, she might want a Mazda MX-5, but she'll probably have to settle for something a bit more practical. Did I just miss that comment? Sorry. Julian Heap. Yep, indeed, the Rover 213 was a 12-valve and a Honda unit. Forgot that. Honda engines, weren't they? The 1.6 was the S series. Had the easiest cam belt ever to do. Do you agree with that, Alan? On the old Rover 213? Or the 216, I should say.
The 216 would have been the easier cam belt
Yeah,
change.
216.
The 213 would have been a bit more trickier.
Yeah, he said that the 1.6 was the S series. That had the easiest cam belt.
Yeah, the 213s, I know on a lot of the later versions, you've got to take the rocker cover off to get the cam belt off because they use the rocker cover to cover the top cover on the cam belt. That's been later. I'm not sure about the earlier versions.
Okay.
But the little Honda engines were ever so good. They used a lot of Honda engines, Rover did.
They did, yeah. When the 80s, they British Leyland did a deal with Honda, and in fact, here's another car nobody's mentioned: Triumph Acclaim.
Now that was a good car.
Good car. I like those to this day. I think they're really good. That was essentially a Honda, wasn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of Honda components.
They were like a squarish.
They only made it for a couple of years, didn't they? It was a kind of little stopgap until they launched something else. And sadly, the last car to carry the name Triumph. But yeah. Liar, he had a 1986 Mark IV Escort 1.3L, was 6 years old and rotten as a pear. Well, my Escort, when I bought that was a 1990 Escort. That was 6 years old when I bought that. But I was quite lucky by the sounds of it because it wasn't really that rusty. I think there's just a bit of rust around the boot catch. But other than that, it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, a lot of them Fords, they all rotted out.
Yeah, Fords of that age did, yeah. David Smith. Yes, hi, Dave. How are you doing? Good friend of mine. Good to hear from you. Good evening, Kevin and Alan. My first car was a 1962 Anglia 105E, Reg 933KUR, maroon spaced front wheels, 4.5 J's on the back with a whip aerial, 997cc engine. I blew the big ends on the A12.
You know where he's put spaced front wheels?
Yes.
You used to go down to your local car accessories shop and they would do these like blocks, square blocks
Yeah.
that you would put over your wheel studs, and you could actually bring your wheels,
Bring
make
the
your
wheels out.
like wider.
Yeah.
It was all kinds of things they used to do back then. You don't see anymore.
I suppose nowadays, you've got banded wheels, haven't you? Where they sort of double them up to get the wider wheels instead of spacers.
Well, I think nowadays you just buy wider wheels.
Yeah.
But if you never had wide wheels back then, you had your standard wheels. You could actually make them look wider by putting these spacers on.
Just space them out, yeah. And some of these cars, they used to put bigger wheels on the back as well. Do you remember if your wheel arches could take it, you'd have the bigger tyres, the bigger wheels on the back. Very cool, Dave. Nice to hear from you. Hope you're having a good evening. John Donnelly. Hi, Alan. My first car was a 1980 W Reg Skoda Estelle 120. Paid £40 for it. LOL.
Did you keep your hands warm while you were pushing it?
Oh,
Or did you use it as a wheelbarrow?
all the jokes there, weren't there? All the Skoda jokes, yeah.
You know what? It's funny you should say Skoda, because we actually have a Skoda down the garage, right as we speak.
Not a Skoda Estelle, though.
No, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not an Estelle.
No.
I would love to go for a drive in an Estelle because they had the engine in the back.
I remember a friend of mine, his mum had a Skoda Estelle, and I think instead of door handles, it had these little straps where you just pulled the door shut. They were quite basic.
I can't remember now.
Yeah.
I done a head gasket on an Estelle once, and I had backache for weeks afterwards.
But that makes me laugh where he's paid £40 for it, because one of those Skoda jokes at the time was, how do you double the value of a Skoda? Fill it with petrol. And that was probably the case with that, wasn't it? Oh dear. But yeah, Skoda Estelle. We're getting some crackers on here tonight. Rapid Man at Alan Howard. My first car was a Ford Escort Mark III on a Y-Reg. Bought it for 70 quid from a guy in Somersham.
Ooh.
Wow, £70 for a Y-Reg Escort. I wonder what sort of condition that was in. Probably not the best for 70 quid, but yeah, we're getting some good cheap cars here. My mate had a 1987 Isuzu Piazza. Never seen before or since. Cool looking car. It looked a bit like a 1986 Toyota Celica. Do you remember the Isuzu Piazza?
Nope.
I do. I remember them coming out at the time. Brilliant. Alan's going to just have to Google that now. Did they do a turbo of that? Isuzu Piazza Turbo? Yeah, very
Oh my god.
very
it's
distinctive. It does look like a Celica and a bit like a VW Scirocco, that sort of shape, doesn't it?
Sirocco, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've never known that.
Yeah.
I've never seen one.
Launched in the 80s, I think, weren't they? Great. Kieran 18, I also have a Mark V Fiesta gear that I've done a lightish restoration on over the years. I'm 17 now, and my daily is a Mark 3.5 Ford Focus Titanium X. Good for you, Kieran. That's good to hear. So, yeah, lightish restoration. You'll have to send us some pics of that. That sounds interesting. Taco Salaten, my first car is a 1971 Opel Kadett B Caravan.
Opel Kadett, flipping heck.
Paid 80, is that euros? Still use it every day? Well, I know what an Opel Kadett is. The Caravan, I guess, was kind of an estate version, was it?
What have we got here?
You've typed in coupe there, Alan. I think we need the Caravan. Opel Kadett Caravan. Is that the Opel Kadett like? Yes, it's the estate one. So
That's a bit like an Astra.
Well, that's the later one. So what's the 1971 Kadett? Is it that green one there? That's a Kadett C Caravan. That's a 77. So it's probably around that shape, isn't it?
Hmm.
Sort of Vauxhall Chevette type shape, isn't it, for us in the UK? Steve Perry's back. Another story about his Datsun. Back in the 120Y days, putting the seats down in the estate gave you a flat surface with room to avoid her getting a foot trapped in the glove box. Oh, okay. Steve is telling us timestamp 2000 hours. He put that on at 8 and it's now 9:30. So we're probably a bit behind the chat. Apologies for that. We'll try and rag through a few comments. Mondo daft as a brush. I used to get up early to see if my Fiesta would start or know whether to walk for the bus. It was hit or miss. Not modern day motoring, it just turned the key. But you could buy a full one-piece exhaust for 18 quid. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, right. Rapid Man says, my Mark III Escort RIP at Monkswood Bend. LOL at Alan Howard. So that bend near Monkswood, I know it well, yeah. So did you have a mishap there? Did it go off the road or did it just stop?
I think there's been many a car gone for a Burton.
Timestamp 2003. You're on the lager. Cheers, guys. Cheers, Mondo.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Steve Perry. Fiat. Fix it again tomorrow or fix it after tea. That's what Fiat stands for.
I prefer to fix it again tomorrow, Trevor.
Yes, not after tea. Not after tea. Dale O, Vauxhall Chevette. First person to say, oh no, Craig, sorry, had a Vauxhall Chevette, didn't he? Dale had a Chevette as well. Did you have the saloon, Dale, or the hatchback? Because they were quite a different shape, weren't they? JR, hello.
Hello.
Hello, JR. It's
Where
not
did you put the?
Oh, it's over here.
opener. Is there? Is it the JR? Do you remember that? Who shot JR? Dallas. That was the big thing back in the 80s. J.R. Ewing. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who shot him. I can't remember now.
I can't remember, but it was a very big deal at the time, wasn't it? In the early 80s. Hi, guys. What do you think about the Sierra Cosworth, which sold for $500,000? Yeah. Bit of a surprise. Did you see that, Alan?
I heard about it.
Was it a... Am I thinking it was a... Moonstone Blue one? Was it a Moonstone Blue Cosy?
Don't know. I just
remember.
heard the price.
Yeah. But these prices of these cars do seem to be shooting up. And having said that...
But it was a Cosworth, wasn't it?
It was a Cosworth. Having said that, we were talking about Rover SD1s. I had a look on eBay last night, and there's a Rover SD1 on there, and the bids on it so far, when I last looked, were up to £50,000 for an SD1. So, yeah. Oh, Edward Shotton says Ford Consul 315, the classic, the Ford Consul Classic. Oh, are you familiar with those, Alan?
No.
Have a look. That's a very distinctive looking car. It had the sort of 4 stars across the front as a grille, didn't it? And then those big lights. And it was like a bigger version of the Anglia with that sloping rear window, wasn't it? Very unusual car, that was. Alan's got the picture up. 5 stars in the grille, not 4. Close, wasn't I?
Yeah, that's definitely before my time. That's sort of like 1960s.
Yeah. They only made those for a couple of years, didn't they? Not very long.
Looks nice, though.
Yeah. Mick Ramo, evening Mick. Chrysler Alpine in green, tappy engine.
Yeah, they all tapped.
Tap, tap, tap.
That was part of their deal. That's so you could hear them coming.
Bartosz, Fiat 126P in Poland, rusted like hell, and it was a shame to slow down because it would take you half a day to speed up again. LOL, but I loved it. Fiat 126, that was the real baby one, wasn't it? I guess that was the replacement for the 500, wasn't it? It was that sort of tiny little size.
Well, they done a 127 as well, didn't they?
They did.
It's
That was a bit bigger. Yeah. Mark Howson, evening Alan, how are you?
Hello.
My first car was a Ford Fiesta Mark IV LX on an N plate, 1996. So yeah, Mark IV. Family account email. Hi Alan, mine was a Renault 5. Original shape on a B plate, 1.1. Gutless, but I loved it. And the way it rolled going around corners. Wish I'd kept it, seeing what they're going for now.
Yeah.
New Renault 5 coming out within the next couple of years, but electric, I believe.
Yeah, the Renault 5 turbos were...
Very.
That's why there's none left.
Right, Phil 6465. First car was an Allegro 1.5, another Allegro. I learned a lot about mending cars. I suppose that was a good thing about these old Leyland cars. Liam Woodcock. Hi, love all the videos. They give me lots of information and learn a lot about Mark V and Mark III Mondeos. I will know lots about Mark V and Mark III. So there you go, Alan. Liam's enjoying all the videos. Good stuff. Jack Lung, 1989 F-Reg Seat Ibiza system. Oh, system Porsche. That's what they all said on them, didn't they? Of course, yeah. Black, looks great, drives crap. That was one of the early Seats, that was, wasn't it? And they did the Ibiza and the Malaga in the 80s, yeah. Louis James, Leaf Green Cavalier Saloon here. Made it to look like SRI, but bend the clocks, ha. Leaf Green Saloon, yeah. So Cavalier.
Every time we talk about Cavalier, it's like, when's the last time you saw a Cavalier?
Yeah, well, we did see one at a car show last year at Yaxley. It was quite an original one as well, and that was the hatchback. That one, wasn't it? Oh wow! Rapid Man is saying an Austin Metro GT 1300 Went like a rocket until the crankshaft broke and came out the side of the engine.
Austin Metro 1300.
The GT. They made some cool Metros. I like the GTA, Metro GTA. That was a good one. Mr. Stephen Parry from Port Sunlight on the Wirral. Good evening to you, sir. My first car was a Fiat Panda C-Reg, and second was a 205 Peugeot Junior Special Edition E-Reg. Have you got your own car again? Nice to see you both live. And you, Steve. Good to hear from you. So I think Alan's already answered that earlier.
No,
You haven't got your own car yet, have you?
No, the 205 was the hot hatch, wasn't it? If you
Yeah.
had a sporty one.
Oh, the GTI was. That's very
We won't say
very
no more
highly
about the
regarded.
Fiat Panda, though.
Alan's not a fan of the Pandas. I can tell that.
That would be the wife's car.
But the 205, yeah, I remember the Junior Special Edition. I do remember that. But yeah, the GTI was the one that everyone wanted, wasn't it?
That's if you could just insure it.
First car, you say, Citroen AX. We're getting a lot of these Citroen AX drivers tonight. Never cost more than £15 to fix, regardless of what was wrong with it. Not that much ever did. No turbos or fancy electrics or even power steering. No. So yeah, Citroen AX. That's a surprise car, that is, isn't it? Well, I didn't think of Citroen AX when we first started this evening. Steve Perry. I remember driving from Bath to Weymouth to see the total eclipse. Got stuck behind a tanker and arrived just as a cloud covered it. Oh. Which eclipse was that? 1999 or a different one? I remember one in 99. I remember watching that at work. We stood out the back with welding masks watching that. And it was really eerie because everything went sort of cold because the sun had disappeared and all the birds started thinking it was nighttime and going to roost and stuff. So yeah, interesting, the old eclipse. Rapid Man, Huntingdon born and bred here. So you must be just round the corner somewhere, unless you've moved away now. But yeah, very good. Good to hear from you, Rapid Man. Bonu 55. Hi, Alan. My first car, Vauxhall Viva, 1965. Off-duty copper ran into me and wrote it off. Oh, so 65, that would have still been the HA, wouldn't it? The first one. Oh, 1989 Astra Max. Do you remember the Astra Max, Alan?
I remember the Astra.
Astra Max was the van version with the higher back. Astra Max had a bigger sort of back to it, higher than the cab. It was quite inventive at the time. It was the first sort of van to have that kind of styling, I think, wasn't it? Oh, yeah, look at that. Astra Max.
Oh, I
Do
remember,
you remember them?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of a larger back section on them. Very
Yeah.
nice. Mercedes and more. Hi, guys. First car was a Citroen ZX 1.9 TD Avant-Garde. So that was 90s, wasn't it, the ZX? And then after that, you had the Xantia, I think, didn't you? Citroen ZX, Citroen Xantia. Purple Pit Effect, Mark III Golf 1.8 GL with rotten sills. Yeah, I guess a lot of these first cars weren't in the best of order, really, were they? Mondeo launched March 93. Thank you. Yeah, we got there with that in the end. Kevin Ward. Hi, Alan. Kevin, my first car was a Mark I Fiesta, 1980. After a few burnouts, the cross member snapped and gearbox nearly hit the ground. LOL. However, I still loved it. Passed my test in an 82 Ford Cortina. That would have been one of the last Cortinas, wouldn't it? Mark V.
Yeah.
Ah, brilliant. Sprograts told us they did do a 1.3 Ford Sierra 3-door. Forgot about the 3-door Sierra.
Yeah, they would have been pretty rare, though, to find a 1300.
Yeah. Hi, Steve. Timestamp 2015. We're getting there. Did a 1.3 very early, a year or so, then discontinued, was sold in Italy, tax reasons. That was the Sierra again. Thanks for that. The 1300 Sierra was the only 1300 Pinto powered Ford. Richard Tring, hiya, my first car was a Mark I Cavalier. Bought it in the dark, in the rain, in Luton in 1987. £475. Felt fantastic just to get on the road. In the light of day, it had big oil leaks. Ooh. So you bought that in Luton. Was that from someone who worked at the Vauxhall plant, I wonder? A lot of Vauxhalls in Luton.
I think they were all prone to leaking oil back in them days, flipping heck. It was like coming the territory, didn't it?
Vic and Tez. My own first car was a Mark II Escort 1300L, then moved on to Capris for a while. The 80s were bloody cool. I'm with you there. Definitely. Love the 80s. That's my favourite decade. Has to be. Steve Perry, when you have to explain Capri owner that the laser was the small engine into them. Yep. Very good. Ford Fiesta Mark 1 1980, 0 to 60 in 13 seconds.
Not bad going.
Martin Lloyd, mine was a brown 1.6L Ford Sierra, A198 UDW. What an absolute rust bucket. I suppose if it was brown, at least the rust didn't show too bad. 85 Mini Mayfair in Moonraker Blue, says Bearded Bodger. Yeah, Moonraker Blue. That was a good colour on the old Rover stuff, wasn't it? Very nice. Steve Perry, KRU 80P was a Southampton reg where the car was sold when new. Yeah. Steve Parry, not to get confused with Steve Perry, we've got Steve Parry. When did you pass your test, guys? I passed in 1996. When did you pass your test, Alan?
Oh, flipping heck. 19. I'm going to have to think about this because this is a question that's sort of like I haven't thought about in many, many years.
Involves a bit of mathematics. Well, I'll ramble on about when I passed. So I actually passed my test in 1993, but I didn't buy my first car, the one in the picture, until 96. So 93 was when I passed, though.
I'm sure it was about 86. It was somewhere around 86 or 87.
Right, we've got Andre on the line, and he's saying, OMG, Alan. Beck sort beer. Worst. Doesn't like it. He doesn't like the Becks.
I like Beck's. The one I can't get on with is Stella Artois. I can't drink that. But I kind of find the Beck's kind of goes down all right.
Mark Howson, my Fiesta had the Z-Tech lump in it. Yep, good engine that, the Z-Tech. Chris Newell, Mark III Escort, MDA 451X. Sorry to rattle through, but we're just trying to catch up with some of the comments. Andre, my first car was a Dacia 1310 Estate, 2002. I wonder which country you're from, Andre, because Dacia is sort of a bit more of a recent thing here in the UK, isn't it? It's only sort of recently, past decade or so, would you say, Alan, that we've had Dacias?
Dacia 13 what?
1310 Estate.
Let's have a look.
Oh,
we want a statement, didn't we?
That's the one I'm thinking of. It looks like a Renault. What Renault looked like that, Alan? Was it a 16 or something?
Yeah, possibly. It looks Renault-ish.
Yeah.
You see, it's like Dacia isn't really a name that's sort of like anyone really recognises over here until recently.
No.
They're only like making modern ones now, but these are real old ones, aren't they?
They are. That's cool. So 83KY in 2001, when I was about to get my license, I was all about the Ford Sierra 2-litre DOHC from 92, my big brother owned. But my dad was a Peugeot guy and got me a 405 MI16, which is a car I still adore and own. Great car. Peugeot 405 MI16.
Yeah, they were quite a sporty model.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, you hang on to that. Very good car. Flea 72, my Sierra reg was A212OHJ. So that was HJ. Is that an Essex plate? Just checked DVLA, and it was an 83, not an 84. Okay. 83KY. Of course, I'm not driving daily anymore, but I enjoy it. Losing it now, but I enjoy it during the nice summer days. Oh, good for you. So yeah, keep that as your summer car. Very nice. My first car was an Audi A80 B2 1.6. Bought it 6 months ago. I put Webers on it and welded a set of stainless inlet and exhaust manifolds. Now looking to 1.8T swap it. So he wants to put a... So do you want to swap the whole car, or are you looking to drop a 1.8 engine in it? Optional blanking plates. I think that was the conversation we had earlier, Alan, wasn't it? Richard Cruikshank, first car, Fiat Tipo. F-Reg, do you remember the Fiat Tipo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Fiats that you don't recognise the names of them anymore.
Yeah, Fiat Tipo.
I'm going to bring a picture of the Fiat Tipo up anyway.
Blomman69 says Renault 16 had column change. Yes, that's right. Steve Perry, does anyone remember the dip switch on the floor? Truth Reporter, Land Rover Series 3, 109-inch petrol, nothing but grief. Wow, Land Rover.
But there you go.
Yeah, the old Tipo. I remember those well. Didn't they advertise that with an opera singer singing about my new Fiat Tipo or something?
Can I just point something out with the Fiat Tipo?
Going back to the Tipo.
It wasn't nothing to look at, was it? It was a bit like looking at the back end of a bus. And I'll tell you, there's one there's one on eBay here. The price is 99 pence.
Well, what's worrying me more about this listing on eBay, Alan's laughing, okay? No, I think you've misread it, because look, it's got postage $4.99 on it. It's parts, Alan, look. Fiat Tipo parts, they're breaking it. It's not the whole car for £1. Adam Lynch, my first car was an orange G-Reg 1969 Escort. It only lasted 5 years at the time. So fast, but I can't remember what the engine was. Yeah, nippy little car, the Mark 1 Escort. I think whatever engine. They were pretty nippy, weren't they, Alan? Pretty decent, the Escorts, yeah. Craig's back. Craig Fevier. My first car was a Vauxhall Chevette 4-door saloon in pea green before it got smashed up. That's that Chevette I was talking about earlier, yeah. That was a decent car till the accident. Yeah, very nice car. Truth Reporter, Sparkomatic Retrofit Electronic Ignition from Argos. Those were the days. Yeah, Argos did used to do quite a few car bits and pieces, didn't they? Steve Perry, 8:30, 9:45. Steve Williams, 1979 Royal Blue Renault 18 TS, a rock box.
Oh, let's get
Renault
this up.
18. I remember the Renault 11 as well. Anybody have a Renault 11? Yeah, Renault 18.
Do you know, if I saw that, I wouldn't know that as a Renault 18. It looks similar to other cars of the era. I'm trying to think what other car we've had tonight that we've actually brought up and looks similar to that.
It's a bit like, I think that one.
Some of the Talbots are even like that.
That might have replaced the Renault 16, I think, looking at the evolution of the shape. But it's a bit. And then you had a Renault 9, Renault 11. Christopher says mine was a H-Reg Mark 1 Ford Escort. That was 1981. Brilliant. Yeah, I had a friend, actually, a friend of mine, his brother had a Mark II Escort as his first car, and that was in the 90s. Purple one. So they were still some about back in those days. Truth Reporter, many cars simply do not exist anymore. Tell me the last time you saw a Fiat Multipla. We're on Fiats tonight, Alan. Fiat Multipla. Hideous looking thing, weren't they?
Flipping ugly, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were the ones that
With
like
them
the
white-
four little headlights.
That's it, those round lights just under the window.
I bet there are still some going about.
I remember Top Gear messing about with one of those and putting some armchairs in it and badging it as a Rover and all sorts of stuff.
What kind of person do you have to be to buy something like that?
Someone who wants practicality, cheap transport to get you around. That's who. Kia. Oh, Nissan Primera 91 SRI. It was a great car at the time. That was indeed the old Primera. Nissan Primera. Andrew Hayden, my first car was a Rover SD1 2.6. We were talking about these earlier, the 2.6, weren't we?
Yeah.
They did a 2000, the 2300, 2.6, and the 3500, didn't they?
Yeah, it was the 6-cylinder in straight 6 engine in them, and they weren't the best of engines. The slightest air leak on the rocker cover or something like that, and they'd run like a pig. I mean, if you had them right, they were all right, but you know they didn't stay right.
Quite a big car for your first car, though, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
Like we were talking about a Granada for your first car, to have a Rover SD1, even if it was the 2600, that's quite a first car.
well the 2-litre O series engine was not worth having because
No,
it was too
underpowered.
small for the car.
Yeah.
The 2.3 weren't great. The 2.6 would have been the one to have if you could keep it maintained, but the obviously the V8 was the one to get.
Okay, we've got a good picture here. Look, Jensen, man, my first car was a 71 Ford Taunus L Mark 1. And I was just about to say, because I can tell from the picture, in the UK, it was it the Ford Cortina Mark 3? Yes, it was. Now I have a 72 Taunus XL Mark 1 with a 2-litre EFI and 5-speed manual transmission. Yeah, they were very similar looking to the Mark III Cortina, a few differences. And the thing about the Taunus in Europe, they actually did the coupe. You were talking, Alan, about the Granada coupe. Do you remember the Taunus coupe?
No.
Which is like a Mark III Cortina, but a coupe version.
No.
I remember going to Belgium 1984 and seeing loads of those on the streets. And it was like, oh, look, how cool. Cortina coupe. But of course, it was a Taunus. I think you'd like one of those now, Alan, actually.
Yeah, the trouble is you just don't see them over here.
No. And they did, I think it was in Argentina, they did a Ford Taunus, the Mark V coupe version, which was really cool looking car, very striking looking, a bit like a cross between a Capri and a Cortina, really. There you go, Alan, look at that. You'd love one of those, I bet.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty smart looking car, isn't it?
Definitely, no, very nice.
Welly Bob's, Austin Maxi.
Hey!
It had bold tyres and it lasted 1 day.
Ooh, not so good.
Did it just give up on you, or did you have an accident? What happened to that? 1 day. Andrew Hayden, the insurance was more than the car. Quite often the case. I mean, insurance premiums now for youngsters driving are horrendous now, aren't they? I remember when I had my Escort, I was looking at buying it, and I thought to myself, if the insurance is more than £500, I won't buy it. And this was 1996, and the quote I got was 500 quid, so I bought it. But I think now, if a youngster could get insurance for 500 quid, they'd jump, they'd snap your hand off, wouldn't they? Because it's like, what, now 1,300 quid at least to insure your first car?
Do you know what? I've got no idea what insurance costs
No.
for cars these days, but it's ridiculous.
A lot of money.
It used to be you get your no claims bonus if you've done so many years of accidents and all that, but that's all gone out the window now. It's all about money now. They don't care whether you're a good driver or not. They're still going to charge you.
Evening, Mark. Evening, Alan. My first car was a VW Polo 895. I traded it in for a Capri. Okay. A lot of people, I think, wanted Capris and had to settle for something a bit less to start with. Mariola. Good night, Alan. How do I know what type of model of glow plugs is fitted in a Mondeo Mark IV 2010 1.8 TDCi? I'm just going to have to duck out for a sec. Do you want to answer that one, Alan?
How do I know what type of model of glow plugs? Why would you want to know? That'd be my question. If you want to change them, you just phone up the auto parts shop and they'll give you another set. So I couldn't tell you what exactly make they are that are going to be fitted to it. Because, you know, as a lot of these car manufacturers, they might be a Ford engine or something like that, but they might use a different brand, Bosch or something like that, to actually for the parts. Just like, you know, diesel injectors, they might use like AC Delco or Bosch or Siemens injectors, even though you're driving a Ford car. So you're not really going to know unless you take one out and look at it. So, but if you're going to change them, just get some new ones. Two-stroke. You know, I like the smell of two-stroke. My first car was a Mark II Mondeo, 1.8 turbo diesel. Loved it, but you could hear it rust. You know, the Mark IIs, they put a smaller turbo on them right after the Mark I, because the Mark I, it took a lot longer for the turbo to kick in, but the Mark IIs are a bit more zippier because they had that smaller turbo. Just a little point there to note. First car, 1.1 Fiesta, caught fire the day after I rebuilt the carb.
Whoops. Leaky fuel line dripping onto hot exhaust, I guess. Few cans and pocket full of rubber bits from the scrapyard, all sorted. So we've mentioned this before, I think, Alan, haven't we, about bits from scrapyards and the days when you could just walk around the scrapyard yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And you had to basically take the parts off the car yourself, didn't you?
Yeah, there were no yellow vests you had to wear. You could just wear the hell what you wanted. Just walk into the scrapyard with your bag full of spanners and go and take off what you wanted, take them to the office, pay for them, and then you were on your way.
Yeah.
Not anymore, is it? Yeah, now you can't even go into scrapyards anymore.
No,
I think.
not allowed. I think they just get the parts off the shelf for you, don't they?
Yeah, there's no fun in that.
Curbside Classics. Mark I Escort Mexico was my first car. £275 with no engine. Fitted a 1700 crossflow. I was away. Well, even with no engine, that was a bargain, wasn't it? 275. They look like Renaults from hell, Truth Reporter. I think he's talking about the Dachas. Hey, T5 Jerry's on, aka Damon Hill. Hey, Jerry, how you doing?
Good evening.
I'll get my thumb in the shot for you. Woo. Evening, lads. May I refer to you as Captain Sensible, seated? Yes, you can. And Looney Tunes, standing but wobbly. Yeah.
My name is Rich. Rick Sanchez.
If I'm Captain Sensible, Jerry, I hope this is happy talk that I'm bringing this evening. Did you like that? Right. Anyway, good to hear from you, Jerry. Cheers for that. Steve, back in 90-something, gave a friend a Model 205 sprayed in her dream colours. All her other friends went ballistic. I was the only one that would invite her out for her birthday. Okay. Camille, Ford Escort 1.6 16 valve, if I'm not wrong. It was from 1996. It was most of the comfortable car I was driving 14 years ago back in Poland. That car was very famous for installing LPG and cost nothing to drive. LPG conversion. Say hello to Alan. I use our video to repair my Mondeo. There you go. So another one using your videos to keep the old Mondeos on the road. Love it. Hey, what we got here from Tam Fairley. Ford Popular E93A in black, 1959, I think. That's like that black Ford Pop we saw in the showroom at TC Harrison when they had their car show in September, wasn't it? The sit up and beg model. Great car. Curbside Classics now. That's a proper car, Tam. Quite right. Yep, the E93A. Look at that. Lovely car. Mark, I'm told BPSO Shell has better additives in it. Do you agree with that? So we were talking about the fuel, whether it was worth paying for the premium. So BPSO and Shell, has it got better additives than your supermarket fuel?
Well, it's a lot better quality. It's a lot better quality fuel. Look, obviously, you're paying for it. But the thing is, if you really want to know, you're going to have to live it. You're going to have to wear the T-shirt. So basically, that means you're going to have to pay to have that fuel put in your car, and it's worth doing if you want to know, and then see what your car drives like, and compare it to the cheap supermarket fuel you've been using, and see if there's a difference. And you might well find there is.
Tam Fairley, I'm now on car 76, one for every year I was born. Wow, Tam. So Tam is obviously 76, and you've owned 76 cars.
Bloody hell, that's going some.
Can you name them all off the top of your head? Or have you got a list? Have you written them all down? I hope you know them all. Wow. Julian, it was to my pride. Yeah, I think most people's first car was their pride and joy, wasn't it? A bit of freedom. Peugeot Sound, my first car was a 1966 minivan in light green. I then crashed it and fitted a fiberglass front end in red. Why did you do that in red? That's unusual, isn't it? Curbside Classics. You've gone through some cars, Tam. Definitely. Steve Perry, the 120Y Coupe was more cramped in the back than the 120Y. Oh, Roger Snelling. 1965 Hillman Imp.
Oh,
Hillman
blimey.
Imp, Alan. Glen
No,
Almond
that was-
Green.
That was a rear engine car. wasn't
Rear
it?
engine built in Scotland, wasn't it? I believe.
Do you know what? Just for the laugh, I'm going to get the Hillman Imp up.
HPK 446C. Great fun, but never sure you'd get back home. Now, I think you could open the rear window on those, couldn't you? Yes, you've just brought a picture up of one.
That's a lowered one, though.
That's a lowered one.
It looks actually pretty cool.
They were good racing car as well. They had the Coventry Climax engine in them, didn't they? They shifted. They certainly moved. I remember sitting in the back of one of those. A relative had one, and we were driving along with the back window open, and I thought it was really weird to have a back window open while you're driving along, because it was the actual, not the side window, the actual rear window. Aha! First one we've had this evening. We've had a lot of minis. Dick Dastardly, 1972 Mini Clubman.
Ooh,
I like the
that's
Clubmans.
the estate version.
No, the Clubman was the square front one.
Oh,
The
right.
square fronted Mini. But they did do an estate in it as well. But yeah, the square front Mini, which divided opinion. But I like the Clubmans. I think they're a nice looking car. Tam is back. Yes, I had 8 RS2000s. Also, I almost bought a Ford Cosworth RS500. Blimey, Tam, you've had some decent cars. So 8 RS2000s. Wow.
Yeah, Tam, you certainly had some money to buy all them.
Well, obviously not at the same time. Through the years. Paul B, first car, Volvo 850 TDI, 5-cylinder, 2.5 litre estate in emerald green. Now that's a car, isn't it? Love those. That's probably the best estate car ever made, isn't it? The Volvo.
Yeah,
Volvo.
they were quick. The police used them.
Yeah.
They were bloody quick cars.
Yeah, I remember the T5s coming out. They had those. Cambridgeshire Police had a fleet of those on the R plate, R Reg, late 97, early 98. The first ones in Cambridgeshire with the Battenberg livery, and they launched those just up near where Alan works, actually at Alconbury Airfield. They did a feature on BBC Top Gear with all this fleet of these T5s and the Cambridgeshire Police helicopter. Great car. And then they had the later versions. Then they've kind of dipped away from Volvos for a while, but now we've got some back on the fleet in Cambridgeshire now, the latest Volvo estates. Very smart looking police cars. Very nice.
That was one of the cars I got into once, and the air conditioning in it was the coldest I've ever experienced.
Absolutely freezing. Yeah. Out and about. Just what I thought. Thanks. Good stuff. Ford were the best working man's cars in the 70s and 80s. I'd have to agree with you. I'm a bit biased. So's Alan, but we are Ford fans, aren't we, Alan?
Yeah, definitely.
Austin Metro 1.3, a British car in Spain. Oh, so you were in Spain. Juan Duco had a Metro. Yeah, it was very, the advertising behind the Metro was very patriotic, very British, wasn't it? Built at Longbridge, of course. Great great time, 1980. Some good cars, actually. The Metro Escort Mark III was launched in 1980 as well. Sav, Datsun Violet, similar to a Sunny, 4-door saloon, loads of chrome on it. Yeah, I remember those. The Datsun Violet. Alan's going to Google one. You'll remember it when you see it,
I
Alan.
remember the name. Yeah, I actually quite like that.
Now, according to what Alan's just brought up on the internet, it says
140J.
there's only one of 6 left now in the country. Okay, we better crack on with some comments. Mike Mensa says 1992 Ford Fiesta 1.1L, another Fiesta. Best Tech LJL, Fiat Punto 1.25 55 reg, worst car ever. Fiat Punto.
Well, just cheap.
The later
I think it's
Puntos
cheap.
were quite stylish, weren't they? But that one I always called, I think it looked a bit like a hovercraft, the back of it, didn't it? Because how the bumper came out. Steve Williams, SU, he's reminded you it was the SU carburettor.
SU, yeah.
Julian Heap, French petrol engines back then had fairly long stroke, so were quite tall, hence when they were canted back. SU carb with dashpot damper, SU carbs, Skinner's Union SU carburettor. Thomas says, hi, my first car was a Saab 9000 2.3 turbo. I love everyday drive with this bullet on wheels. That's quite a car, isn't it? Saab 9000 turbo.
Well, that mean they were built well, weren't they?
They were. Saabs were, yeah. Saabs and Volvos, isn't it funny? The Swedish car's very sturdy, very sturdy. Oh, 1968 NSU Print 4. Do you remember the NSUs? They're the ones with the rotary engines. They were unusual. SU carbs, brilliant design and very simple. Prins. Anybody know the relationship between these two guys? This is only my second time in chat. Cheers.
What's that?
Anyone know the relationship between these two guys? This is only my second time in the chat. Cheers. We're not related.
No, we go to car shows.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
So,
Our just common interest is classic cars, really, isn't it, Alan?
yeah, so it's like it's rather than me doing live streams by myself all the time. Sometimes Kevin will come round and we do live stream together. So it just makes it a bit more interesting. You've got two perspectives here.
We can have a bit
Yeah.
of disagreement about Morris Minors and the like, can't we? If there's two of us. Puget Sound. I used to work on the Allegro and the wedge replacement for the 1800-200. In both cases, the 11-1300 and 18-200 were the better cars. Okay. So I used to work on the old Leylands. G-Gun, first car, 86 Ford Fiesta. Bit of a theme with the Fiestas tonight, isn't it? 1.1 with a pushrod engine. Would stay in tune for about 100 miles. 4-speed box 2, LOL. Yeah, good point. 4-speed gearbox. A lot of these cars. I mean, even the 5-speed now sounds dated, doesn't it? Because a lot of them are 6-speed, but 4-speed, yeah. We need a garage trade bodge night. Stephen Ransom, hi both. Back in August 1979, my mum and dad bought a year-old T-Reg Cortina 1.6. He's put FL, do you mean GL? 1.6.
I should think that's GL.
Yeah.
It should be GL.
So T-Reg, yeah, that's a Mark IV, that would be. Mark IV Cortina. My favourite. I love the Mark IV and the Mark V. Ian Moon, some Hyundai i10s have wind-down rear windows and electric front. Good to know. Thanks for that, Ian. So the Hyundais have still got the windy rear windows. Kieran, 1.2 16 valve. I was asking him about what engine his Corsa had, Corsa B. Never had to top up the oil once in almost 6 years of owning it. Was involved in a pretty bad accident 2 years ago, which ticked its decline health-wise. Also has rust issues, doesn't help. Yeah, they do tend to rust now. And I was gutted. A lady I know she'd owned it for years. She had a Corsa B, and I didn't know she had it for sale. It did have some rust issues. She couldn't sell it, ended up scrapping it, and I was gutted because I would have bought that. Big restoration in progress for it. Good luck with that, Kieran. And keep in touch. Let us know your progress on how you're getting on with that, because I'd be interested to see that car. Gulshan Paul, Vauxhall Astra 1.3 GL 1989. So first person I think that's mentioned an Astra. Out and about. I've currently got a Fiesta Zetec S TDCi remapped. Does me for now. Yeah, great car, the Zetec S. Herman, Audi 80 B4 Avant, Alpine White. I'm still the owner. Good for you. Keep hold of that. Audi 80 Avant. That's the estate
There seems
version.
to be quite a following with the Audi 80s.
Yeah. They're a decent car. Jonathan. Hello, Jonathan. He just says hello. And Herman is speaking to us. Nice wishes from Austria. Good evening, Austria. Brilliant. Great to hear from you. Thanks for that, Herman. Hope you're well.
Yeah, keep them gates of Vienna closed.
Stephen Ransom, hi both. Back in August. Oh, we're back on Stephen's. So the Cortina GL, 11,267 miles. I learned to drive in it and was my first car in July 88. I still own it and have completely rebuilt it. Wow. 79 Cortina. Well, I've got some friends of mine who own a 79 Jupiter Red Gear, which we've seen. That's a T-Reg. And they've only done 14,000 miles in that from new.
Yeah.
So, yeah, nice to know that there's still some Mark IVs about, because they're very few and far between. I've rarely seen one. Jonathan, are you okay?
Yeah. We've been running for 2 hours and 41 minutes, so I'm still standing.
Alan's still standing, and he's been on the guzzle a little bit, haven't you? So he's probably a little bit wobbly. Gandam Nima Gap. The south is known for having hard water. Many people have water softeners installed. Okay.
Now, I thought the south would always had soft water. Because if I go down to the southeast, I'm sure it's like places like Torquay and down to Land's End area, it's got soft water. But up here in Cambridgeshire, we've got hard water.
Yeah.
And
Hard.
we're in the east here.
Hard water and clay soil. That's what we've got here. First error of my life was a Volkswagen Passat B4 19 TDI 75 horsepower. Low horsepower. Northern Monkey. The Mini was great for ragging it around, but being over 6 foot, it was hard work having fun in the back with girlfriend. So we used to nick her dad's Ford Gear V6. Happy days. Reminds me of an episode of London's Burning. Do you remember London's Burning, Alan? Billy Ray was the character. He had his girlfriend in a Mini and found it a bit cramped. So he went out and bought himself a Mark I Ford Granada hearse, so that there was plenty of room in the back of it. I remember that storyline. John Ladd. Hey, Alan. How's things?
Excellent.
My first legal car was a Mini Clubman. I paid £50 for it. Only had it a couple of months. MOT left. Sorry, it only had a couple of MOT left. I couldn't use the driver's door as it would fall off.
Yeah, I also have a little story about a door nearly falling off from a car that the boss had sold years ago. It was a Sierra, and we were stood in the garage, and this guy pulled in in this car, and as he opened the door was like hanging off, and one of the hinges was broken, and he was trying to hold the door up. And there's me and my mate in the garage, sort of like hiding, having a good laugh at him. There's lots of things like that. When cars used to really rust back then in the 80s and that. And flipping like, that's why like tow bar. When I went to the A1 to tow a car, and I used a tow bar on this Mark IV Escort, and then it ripped the tow bar clean off the pin Escort, left it on the A14.
What was you towing with it though?
I think it was a Sierra we were towing.
God.
And as I went to pull away, the tow bar just come completely off the Escort and just landed in the middle of the road.
But yes, I had a ropey old Renault Clio that I paid £560 for just before my 16th birthday to tidy up to learning. Kept having issues. Then when the paint was flaking off the bonnet and grille and red under, I got rid of it. Little Otters says, I learned to drive in my dad's Austin Princess in 87. Rode over a pothole and the suspension collapsed. Dad wasn't happy. Very nice car inside, plush interior with electric aerial. They were a very nice car inside. But yeah, let's hope the same hasn't happened to me, because I've hit a massive pothole here on the way and it made hell of a bang. So let's hope I haven't done the suspension in on my motor. But yeah, you'd have knackered the hydroelastic suspension on that. Mark III Cortina says Tim DMX.
Good choice.
Took my test in it. Nice. Alan, do you do private repair work?
We do. If we can fit it in.
So yeah, Alan does through the garage. That'll be, won't it?
Yeah.
Booking at the garage. You don't do work outside of the garage. No, just at the garage. Adam Lynch. Oh, I had a 1976 Princess and I didn't like it. I could not see in reverse. I also had a few 1800s. I like them far more, but never a Maxi. You're talking our sort of thing now. I know we've said this evening we are Ford fans, but we do have a soft spot for all the British Leyland stuff, don't we, Alan? We do like the old Leyland cars.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of miss them.
Yeah.
I used to like looking at them.
Sort of 70s British Leyland. Do you think how big that was in the manufacturing in this country, in Britain? So you had Austin, Morris, Jaguar, Rover, MG, Triumph, Land Rover, Range Rover. All of these were all owned by British Leyland. So yeah, love all the 70s Leyland stuff like the Princess and the Maxi. Best motorbike I owned was a Yamaha DT 125R 2002. Long live two strokes. Stephen Williams says he had a Yamaha RD 350LC in 1980, which was the XR3 of the bike world back in the day. Oh, we're back on your comment about care homes. It shows how far we are with the comments, how far behind. Care home fees, at least £700 plus a week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Is that they're building all these care homes to kettle in all these old people, because they can extract a lot of money out of them. I think it's care homes have become big business now.
Stephen, yeah, my stepdad talked about them a lot, about the YPVs. I think there's some chat going on between the viewers. Mercedes 240D, drove it for 20 years, says Ahmet. So he had a Mercedes 240 diesel.
I'm going to have to Google that.
They're quite bulletproof, I believe, aren't they? And that proves it if he drove it for 20 years. Mercedes 240 diesel, I think that's the squarish looking one, isn't it?
Oh, there we go. Oh.
Yes. Now that, I have to say, Ahmet, that is what I call a proper Mercedes.
The classic shape.
Brilliant. Lovely car.
Chrome wheel arch liners. Arches anyway.
Tim DMX 512. I had the Talbot Samba. Someone who had a Samba. And then Stephen Williams says he passed his test in a 1985 in a Samba. Horrendous car, LOL. I think it was based on a Citroen or something, wasn't it? Peugeot Citroen, because it was Talbot, Peugeot. What was the Peugeot, Alan, the equivalent of the Samba? The little one. Was it 110 something, I think?
Even a 205 would be a similar looking car.
It was the smaller than the 205. Talbot Samba. It was equivalent. There was an equivalent little Peugeot and a Citroen version as well. Do you remember that? That's the cabriolet you've brought up there, yeah.
It even looks a bit like a Metro from the front.
Yes, it was that sort of size. Fred Z, hi Fred. JP, happy Thursday morning from Western Australia.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Down there, down under.
Is it okay if we say good day? That's what they say in Australia, don't they? Mine was also a Mark III Cortina on the same day I passed my test in 1987 back in old Blighty. So you emigrated to Australia, JP.
And can you put another shrimp on the Barbie?
And forgetting all the stereotypical Australian stuff, are there still lots of Holdens kicking about in Australia? That's what I want to know. And here's my little joke, Alan. I'm sure you'll appreciate this. If I could find a Holden and I owned it, people name their cars. So do you know what I would name it if I had a Holden? I would call it Amanda. Amanda Holden. Get it?
Now, who is she? Is
Yeah.
she not a radio presenter, is she?
She is. She's a heart radio presenter and she's a television presenter, Amanda Holden. And I'd like to say hello, Amanda, if you're watching this evening. Why wouldn't you be? I'm sure you've got nothing better to do. Curbside Classics at Stephen Williams. The Yamaha RDs are legendary. Yeah, very popular in the bike world, aren't they? We're losing track of some of these comments. Apologies, because we're a bit behind. W123. Vivian Hughes. My dad's first car, Hillman Imp. GJD72D white. Aluminium engine in the rear. That's it. Aluminium. Roots attempt at competition for Mini, but I really liked it. Not a bad little car at all, Vivian. They were very good. Thanks for that. Jonathan, first car was a Polo. Steve Perry, she has at least to reach the pedals and to see out of it. This is that car for the 5 foot nothing lady that we're talking about, isn't it? Steve's ex-girlfriend needs something small.
How about a mobility scooter?
Oh,
Well, it's still mobility.
Steve, I'd stick with the Fiat Panda idea over that. I think
It's still transportation.
curbside. Don't forget the DTs. My first motorcycle. All right, they're talking to each other, which is good. Nice that you guys are having a chat. Sorry that we're getting behind. Tony Pond did a lap of the Isle of Man in an Acclaim, did he? Tony Pond drove a Triumph Acclaim. Wow, didn't know that, did you, Alan?
Nope.
Oh, and here's someone familiar. Kenner's Farm.
Hello,
Evening, Kenner.
sweetheart.
How you doing? I love it when the boys talk about their toys. Yeah, we are a bit like two men down the pub, really, aren't we? Sitting and chatting about cars, but we just let everyone else in on the conversation. That's what it is, really. But it's you guys watching that make it. I love all these comments. This has been a really great live stream for us. The RDs, still talking about the bikes. Mine was an Anglia. Steve. The first car I bought was a 1983 Escort XR3i Diamond White. I still hate myself for getting rid of that one. Yeah. I'm surprised you had an XR3 as your first car with the insurance on anything with an XR badge or an I badge.
Yeah, you must have had a good job.
Yeah. I see some proper RD Daytonas at my old workplace. Worked for a shipping company. Loads got sent over to the Channel Islands. Interesting. So a lot of the bikes went out to the Channel Islands. Curbside Classics. Still own an Anglia 105E now. LOL.
Wow.
You'd have to send us a picture of that one. We'd love to see that. Very rare nowadays out and about. Pickliff, do you remember Fiat Strada?
I remember the name.
Yes.
I'm going to Google it.
Designed by computers, built by robots, driven by idiots, LOL. I think in Europe it was called the Fiat Ritmo, wasn't it? Fiat Strada. Had the round headlights.
There we are.
Yeah. Fiat Strada.
I remember them.
I remember them well, but again, another car has disappeared. Forgive me for skipping a few of these. Back in the Cosworth days, the most stolen car, says Steve, yep, was the blue Cavalier. Yeah, a lot of Cavaliers. I think Cavaliers were notorious for being easy to break into, weren't they? When Cozzies, particularly Sierras, were around, the restrictions on insurance were ridiculous due to the amount being stolen. Yeah, early 90s was very bad for joyriding, and there was virtually, difficult to find a Sierra Cosworth that hadn't been stolen, wasn't it? Notorious. Had a China Blue Cavalier as my first car. Yep, I can picture that. China Blue. Nice Vauxhall shade that was. Gareth, what do you think of the Morris Minor? Well, I think we've covered that earlier. I think Alan said all he needs to say on that. Remember Skoda Estelle, the ring gear on the starter motor was worn and had to push to get it started. And it used to freeze on the inside in the winter. LOL. Yeah, that was another Skoda joke, wasn't it? What's the heated rear windscreen on a Skoda? A box of matches.
Do you know, back in them days, you could actually replace the ring gear on a flywheel. You would just heat it up with a torch
Yeah.
and then knock it off.
Wow.
And then you'd heat a new one up, slide it on, and then it cooled down. It'd shrink onto the flywheel.
But no, we're only joking about the Skodas. We liked them. They were quite. I don't know where the jokes kind of moved, didn't they, Alan? There was all these Skoda jokes, and then they moved on to Ladas after that, didn't they? People started dissing the Ladas, making Lada jokes instead. But Skodas, of course, now they've come on massively, aren't they? Now they're owned by Volkswagen. They're basically Volkswagens, so they're great cars nowadays. Stephen King. Learned to drive in my dad's Sierra XR 4x4 that I'll bring up to you soon.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, very good. I'd like to see that. Steve Perry. It was 1999. All the birds roosted. Yes, 1999, the solar eclipse. Very good, Steve. Dave Lorto. Alan, was it the Cavalier that you dropped the clutch out without taking the gearbox out?
Yeah, you could do it. I think even some Astras, you could do it. Them early Vauxhalls, there was a panel underneath the bell housing that you would take off, and you'd get these like little metal clips, like a horseshoe thing, and you'd sort of like you'd push them in, and they would compress the actual clutch plate, and you'd undo the clutch cover bolt by bolt from inside the bell housing. And then you could drop the whole clutch out because there was a shaft you pulled out the back of the gearbox. So yeah.
Stephen King, my first car was a 1984 A-Reg China Blue Cavalier 1.6 GL that was an ex-cab. Had done 200,000 miles when my mum and dad bought it in 1988. They then passed it on to me as my first car in 1997 at over 300,000 miles. On a 1.6 petrol engine.
Long, that's not bad going.
That's amazing. Prior to the Astra Max was the Triumph Herald Courier. Yep, that was the van version of the estate, wasn't it?
I'm glad someone's mentioned Triumph Herald.
There was a Hillman Imp van too. I had one. Yeah, the little estate, the van version. Yeah, Triumph Herald. Sorry, Alan, put you off. What was you going to say about the Herald?
No, I used to like the Triumph Heralds.
The whole front used to lift up on those, didn't it?
The whole body with two levers and they lift right up.
Yeah.
But they were nice cars, especially known as convertibles.
They were. They're quite popular at the car shows now. You still see quite a few Heralds. Aled Davies, 1979 Ford Escort Mark II 1600 Sport, CRJ 882T. Had a little graphic on the back, didn't it, that said on the side, that said Escort Sport. They're quite sought after car now. David Cox says, hi, Alan. I'm afraid I had a Reliant Robin 700cc after passing my motorbike test.
I believe you could.
Motorbike license for those, yeah. No need to be afraid about that, David. We like the old Reliants.
At least if it fell over when you went around a corner, you could just get out and push it back on its wheels and drive off again.
Or fiberglass. Flea 72. I used to have a Fiat Tipo 1.9 diesel with the digital dash, including boost gauge. First car I owned with power steering. Lars Jacobson, 1969 Opel Record 1700. The Opel Record. Wow. I think that was the UK had the Vauxhall Senator, I think, was the equivalent of the Opel Record.
Let me have a look. The Senators were pretty awesome.
You're correct. Hardly see any of the AX these days. I currently show a 1993 Citroen ZX 1.4i Advantage. Again, another car that's just disappeared. Zero corrosion. Good for you. Nice to see you keeping the old Citroens running.
Yeah, it's like a big Cavalier, isn't it?
Yes. Opel Record, so it's a Senator. Equivalent of a Senator. Simon Elsey, Vauxhall Chevette 1.3, rolled it. Multiple, the ugly Fiat, says Steve Perry. Yeah. The Bluebird was better than the Primera. So he's talking about Nissans, the old Nissan Bluebird. Stephen Nunnally, mine was a 1976 Vauxhall Cavalier 1600 GL in Dukes of Hazzard Orange. Yeehaw! The old Dukes of Hazzard Orange. Brilliant. My first proper car, says David Cox, was an Avenger 1600. The Renault 18 TS was the same running gear as the Fuego. Of course it was. There was also a Renault 18 Turbo with those smart alloy wheels they had on those, didn't they? Tiguan Man, Bedford HA van that had a Viva HC engine fitted so that it was a 50% increase in power for a tenner. Yeah, the old Bedford HA van, they made that into the 80s, didn't they? They made that a long while. Even though they changed the Viva and then discontinued it, they still made the van. Trev Kilbs, 1966 Vauxhall Viva. Quite a few Viva owners here. Fraser, Austin Egg Roll was one of my first, but a Polo Coupe 1978 in red. So we had it. Ben Horace, 1997 Ford Fiesta 1.25 Z-Tech. In 2005, it cost £1,250 to insure.
Nick.
Steep. Blimey, yeah. Taste the Rambo, ugly green 77 Mustang 2.
Well,
Are you familiar with the Mustang 2? I know you like Mustangs. I don't think you like the Mustang 2 very much. That was more of an economy kind of car. I think the petrol crisis that they had in 74 kind of messed with the Mustang, didn't it? So if you look for a Mustang 2, do you remember those, Alan? They're not what you think of when you think of a Mustang.
I actually quite like the shape.
You quite like it?
But I like American cars anyway.
Yeah.
It looks nice.
I don't think it's a patch on the early Mustangs, is it? Not
No,
really.
No, it doesn't look like a Mustang or like a classic one.
Hey, David McCurtain, my first car was a Renault 20 TS here in Australia. It was pretty odd. Shame it dissolved. Oh, here in Australia, it was pretty odd. Shame it dissolved. So cool. Another viewer from Australia. Great to hear from you, David. That's brilliant. So a Renault. So you have Renaults in Australia as well. So I suppose, yeah, pretty odd to see a French car in Australia, I guess. Philip Jones, Morris Marina 1.8 do 65 mile an hour in it. Would shake like hell. Had 4 of them. Everyone done the same. Hi, Alan. Remember my MG Metro 1.3? Can't remember year, but it was classed as high performance vehicle. Try getting insurance on that after passing your test. Boy, was it nippy. Yes, Haley. MG Metro, you had the 1300 and then you also had the MG Metro Turbo, and they had red seat belts, I think, didn't they? The MG one, MG Metro.
Yeah, they had very nice red seat belts.
Yeah,
they used to do the MG Metro in British Racing Green.
Yes,
with all like the big MG badges, sort of like transfer stuck all over the
later ones. Yeah, I remember that, all the MG symbols.
But the 1300s were definitely a lot quicker. Marked improvement over the 1 litres.
Yes, the MG ones were pretty special, really. Pretty cool car. Philip Jones got a Mark IV 1.8 TDCi. Go to fill it, got to do it real slow, otherwise it spits back out the top of the filler. What's wrong? It's a 2007 plate, Mondeo.
Well, I'd say you want to be looking at your filler breathing system. Something's blocked somewhere, I'd say. You've got like breather pipes coming off your filler. You want to check nothing's blocked up.
Serge, my first was a Mark V Mondeo 1.5 diesel. 4 years and still drive it. Very good. Steve Perry, can we have Monica as a special guest soon?
We probably can. She did say the other week that she would join one of the live streams shortly. Well, she can't at the minute because she's over in Czech Republic at the moment. So we have her dog instead.
That was Monica's dog this evening.
But unfortunately, the dog's pissed off as well to bed.
So unfortunately, Steve, until such time, you've got to put up with me. Sorry to disappoint you. But yeah, fingers crossed. I'll be watching if Monica's on. Trust me. So it'll be good. Stephen Williams, sidecar racers used Hillman Imp engines back in the 70s. Yeah, the Coventry Climax engine. My first car was a Renault 20 TS in Australia. Yeah, we've had that comment. Thanks, David, for that. Citroen Zara, 2-litre HDI, 440,000 kilometres. Wow, so that was good. Never managed to catch you live, says GT Raffo. Hopefully you're catching us now. Hopefully you're still with us. 2.2 Mark IV Titanium C Sport. When should I do the chain? He's talking about the timing chain, I guess, yeah?
Oh, what car are we talking about?
I can't remember now. Sorry, GT.
You can go back.
Got chalk pits down south. Hi, love the show, says Keith. Thank you, Keith. My first car was an 84 B-Reg Sierra XR4i. Loved it, but had a row with a roundabout and the roundabout won. Sierra XR4. Very distinctive looking Sierra they were, weren't they? With the separate, on the side, you had two little back windows on those, didn't you? This basic Sierra we were talking about earlier, the 3-door, you just had one side rear window, but the XR4i, you had two, and then that twin spoiler on the back as well. Great looking car, very futuristic for 1982, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's the one we saw one of them, didn't we?
We saw one at
was it?
yes, at the Pike and Eel,
Yeah.
Needingworth, yeah.
Needingworth.
And that had a V8 lump dropped into that one, hadn't it? Greetings from Spain, says Dave FF. Hola. Greetings. Timestamp 22:15. We're catching up. We're about half hour behind. Maxis were taxis. Larger cars may well have more adjustment for leg length than small cars do. Tony Pond had to do the lap again after taking the seats and spare wheel out. LOL. Hey, Alan, mine was a Mark I Fiesta, 1981. I think that's probably the most popular first car from this conversation tonight, a Fiesta.
Yeah, the Mark One was, it was a basic Fiesta. It was really basic, but they were all right.
John Donnelly says, my dad had an old BMC J4 van with the driver's sliding door. Oh, brilliant, the old BMC vans. Do you remember the J4s, Alan? Had the sort of wheels were sort of under the body, little looking van. It was very smart. Andy Black, Fiesta Mark II 1.3 gear, A300 GLA. Later found out it was a pre-production car and probably sought after now. Crossflow 5-speed instead of the CVH. Oh, that would be worth some money now, wouldn't it? And I think that reg plate would be worth some money for anyone with a Mercedes GLA. I bet they'd like to buy that now, A300 GLA. David McCurtain, plenty of Holdens running around here. Brilliant. Thank you. You've made my night. I ended up being a Peugeot and Citroen mechanic after showing up to the interview of my Renault 20. Brilliant. Good for you, David. So there's still plenty of Holdens running around in Australia. That's great to know. And I think on that note, do you reckon we're at the end of the comments, Alan?
If you can't scroll down anymore, then we've done it. We're over 3 hours in.
We're there. Well, thanks for sticking with us, everybody, and thanks for your comments. It's been great reminiscing about first cars and hearing all these different cars that people have had. Well, there's a few more coming through now. But I think we're going to have to call it a night there. But thank you very much. And we'll finish with A's comment. Great live session, guys. Lots of great stories. Amen to that. I think that is, you've hit the nail on the head there, eh?
Yeah.
Lots of great stories from you all. Loved hearing about your first cars. So thanks for everyone who's participated this evening. I think we both enjoyed it, Alan, haven't we?
Yeah, it's been fine. Thanks to everyone who's managed to stick around this long.
Yeah, thanks very much.
It's been a blast. It's been a long one, hasn't it?
Right, I better hit the road and get some sleep before going to work tomorrow. And same for you, I guess, Alan.
Yeah, reality again tomorrow.
Back to life, back to reality, as Soul to Soul said. Yeah. But thanks very much for joining us. And till the next time,
Wubba lubba dub dub.
see ya.
Oh, you got a word.